окупанти до нас в Україну. Форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні. У нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар. Байрактар.
Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1029 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And today we saw massive Ukrainian strikes on the Russian mainland. We also hear that North Korean troops are eliminating their Russian comrades, and Russia's also struck down their own Ka-52 helicopter, and the crew's resting peacefully, as the Russian telegram says, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from the war in Ukraine, as well as a tiny bit of news from what's going on down in the Middle East right now. But nevertheless, we have a very interesting night from a load of Storm Shadow missiles literally laying waste to an entire Russian Oblast in Rostov on Don, to a Russian train derailing near Murmansk in a very interesting form of an absolute failure of safety, also apparently a mass casualty event. We have also been able to hear of the North Koreans with their revolutionary Juche spirit in the name of their great sun-faced leader Kim Jong-un, eliminating the maybe those Russians. They actually committed friendly fire against the Russians today, and wiping out about 8 Russian soldiers. We've also been able to hear that the Russian economy is collapsing so badly now that the Duma is not denying it, and they're now blaming the entire thing on the Russian central bank. We've also seen that inside of the war itself, the Russian Federation continues to try and push against Ukrainian frontline positions, but it appears to be absolutely to no avail, as incredibly high casualties are still resulting along the entirety of the front lines, and things just simply are not going well for Russia. But good for Ukraine. It is a good day to be a Ukrainian, that's for sure. Bad day to be a Russian. But nevertheless, over the past 24 hours, we've been able to gather a load of news, and it's an absolutely insane night, a crazy night, because we have quite truly long-lasting news, real news, and it's a great night to be covering news. But nevertheless, Matthew, I understand that we have heard of something that we have to show y'all off the bat, because many of y'all will know that today has been a pretty significant day, at least in forms of Ukrainian deep strikes, as we have been able to hear that inside of the Rostov-on-Don Oblast, there has been a significant usage of a special kind of missile, one that usually brings the shadow of the storm, and many people know the exact name of the missile I'm talking about. Pictured in the skies above Rostov-on-Don today, we were able to see the storm shadows making their way to their targets. This is literally a picture taken by a photographer inside of the Rostov Oblast as the storm shadow was rocketing its way across the region and to its targets along multiple areas throughout the Oblast. We were able to get another picture right here, and this is by no doubt really throwing out the window the analysis side of things, or really the deductive reasoning that we have to do here on this channel about what kind of weapons were used. It literally was a storm shadow. There are actual pictures of the thing in still frames showing us that it is a storm shadow missile. But nevertheless, loads of these things were fired. The Ukrainians have not even published an official number yet as to the absolute volume of storm shadows that were fired into the Russian Federation, but their impacts were seen quite literally throughout the entire populated area of Rostov Oblast, all the way from Kamensk-Shchetinsky down to the city of Novoshitinsk and even the city of Taganrog. Quite literally, the entire populated crescent region of the Rostov Oblast was stricken today by Ukrainian Storm Shadow missiles along its entire length. We were able to hear but apparently earlier in the day, there was some analysis saying that the Storm Shadow most likely was used because one of the engines recovered from the ground intact is the exact model and variety, the TR-60-30, that is used inside of a Storm Shadow missile, and we were able to see it right there. Pretty cool, actually. It's pretty neat to see that the jet engine is fairly small. It looks as though you could honestly put this thing on a hobby drone. But nevertheless, that was what was actually used today, were storm shadows without a doubt. Picture evidence came out of a storm shadow. Go ahead.
And also, by the way, was indeed captured by the Russians, like the actual engine from the Storm Shadow itself?
I mean, like, it's like decently damaged, at least at that point. But yes, technically, a TR-60-30 was captured today, but it doesn't really mean much because it's not like this jet engine uses some sort of, like, special super magic kind of, like, ability to make it fly. It's just a turbojet like any other, really.
Interesting. I was thinking for a minute, it seems like it could be an OPSEC violation because the Russians don't really have anything that can keep up with it. So it seems like even though it's not necessarily like the most high-end top secret tech, it's probably not a good thing the Russians got their hands on it. But then again, I guess if it was that secret, they wouldn't be showing it here and looks like in maybe a showcase or something.
Yeah, but the thing is that these things aren't incredibly fast. A Storm Shadow is a subsonic missile. It is right at the crest of becoming a supersonic missile, but not really. So this kind of a turbojet isn't anything impressive. It's not like it's some sort of a hyper ramjet or anything like that, propelling the missile at Mach 20 to its target. It's really just simply a turbojet. Really, what's impressive though about the Storm Shadow is the actual body of the missile itself that it uses in flight, because it's some sort of a lower visibility or stealth form of coating or body shape to the Storm Shadow that allows it to be very tough to detect on radar and generally makes it to where its successes in missions are incredibly high because of the amount of successes or failures to intercept that occur along its flight path. Meanwhile, though, we were able to see at the city of Taganrog that a decent amount was going on. This was really the first place that we saw the attacks were hitting today, and later on in the day we got to hear of everywhere else that got hit. We were once again able to see a Storm Shadow flying on over, almost like an air show. Take a look at that. Some people were trying to say that this was a new missile that Ukraine had made, and I was like, that's a little crazy, because this is 100% a Storm Shadow. Everything is shown that it is a Storm Shadow without a shadow of a doubt. And we could see it continuing to rocket on into the area of Taganrog right there, and we were even able to see some additional clips as well, showing it flying on over. Look at this. We can see the air defense trying to shoot it down. It, of course, would end up being unsuccessful.
Oh, man, those ones make a nice, like, a solid thunk whenever they hit the ground.
Man, you know, they sound like thunder, man. It almost seems like they've been brought along with the shadow of the storm, in a sense, pun intended. But beyond that, we were able to see that there was damage that did exist inside of Taganrog. A little bit later on in the day, as we were able to hear explosions from inside the city. Check this out. Oh. it was a dead-on hit. The Russians were weeping, they were crying. It was a terrible day for them down there. And we even got to hear that the metallurgical plant inside of the city of Taganrog was hit. Here's another clip letting y'all hear the explosions of that so that we all know that the metallurgical plant is not going to be doing any more metallurgy. What a nice jingle to start off the video.
Comrades, take shelter.
Man, he's like, oh, блядь, they think I will. As he films into the distance. Standing outside of his trailer.
Смотри. Вон.
The metallurgical plant's right over there.
Прям вот сбили. Ошалеть.
Someone's calling on the phone saying, hey, yo, you know there's like a missile strike going on outside the house. He said, oh, yes, блядь, I'm out here filming it. Yes.
Man, someone was calling them up and about to say, are you hearing this? And he was gonna be like, yes, I really am. But also, we got to show y'all today something pretty cool. We actually know where the metallurgical plant is. It's right up here. This is the metallurgical plant. Also, I believe I can find y'all the funnels here if I look around. There they are, right there. So this is the metallurgical plant right here. We can also see that there's a guest house right attached to the plant. So if you ever wanted to sleep in the plant, you can. Take a look at the beautiful views you get from this hotel. It just looks wonderful, really. It's quite Soviet, actually. And there's the metallurgical plant right over there that was actually hit today. From what we understand, several storm shadows did impact the metallurgical plant today, pretty much knocking it offline for a while, considering that pretty much most of the assembly halls or manufacturing halls have been damaged or in some cases destroyed, at least today. And it does appear that there is some general panic going on around in Taganrog, and some guy with a loudspeaker from the Russian army is now making his rounds, telling everyone to stock up on food and water and to prepare documents in case the Ukrainians attack them again, because apparently the next missile is not going to be delivering a bomb. It's actually going to be a Ukrainian border guard that's going around going, okay, let me see your passport. Do you have a requisite amount of food and water? Yes. I don't believe you. You go home. Or something like, I don't know. But anyways, here's the clip.
I hate these dystopian, like, loudspeaker announcements.
I feel like they had the same. I feel like there's an immortal guy in Russia, Matthew, who has the same voice that they just keep on calling out of the woodwork to be like, hey, we need you to make another, like, dystopian sounding thing for us. And he's like, I will make it just for you. And then he goes around,
Говорит Москва, и взвени грязный блещет, блядь. Соки, хлеба, что, блядь.
you know, it's like the same thing
Yeah,
over
like
and
that,
over.
and the towns will look so desolate and nasty, like just like this one, like so dreary and just very communist looking. But at the same time, though, they may not have much modern amenities at all, but they will have that loudspeaker system on every corner of the street, which is just really weird.
Well, actually, man, I'm going to blow you away. Taganrog's too poor to have the loudspeaker system on every street corner. This is actually a buhanka driving around with giant loudspeakers on top of it through the streets broadcasting this.
No way.
I'm
no
not kidding.
way.
It actually is. Like, it actually is, because if you listen, you'll hear it moving around out there.
Oh, yeah, it's moving around. It's getting louder and quieter. Man, how cheap of them. I thought they had it installed, but it's just a truck.
Nah, the city was too poor for that, so they just got a little buhanka, put some loudspeakers on it, and told the guy to go ham. And meanwhile, dude, the guy inside of the van, he's going around probably yelling, take cover! It's getting real! Or something like that. Like, I don't know what he's going to be saying, but I guess he's just driving around awkwardly while this voice just says whatever it says. But moving on from that, and further on up past Taganrog, we were able to hear that up in the area of Novoshitinsk, it appears that something even worse happened, because the city of Taganrog was not the only target today of the Storm Shadow attacks that hit the Rostov Oblast. Up in the area of Novoshitinsk is something that is also really interesting and really cool. And if I can find it really quick, aha. Here it is. This is a small oil refinery that exists right outside of Novosibirsk. This oil refinery is one of the more sizable ones, at least within the Rostov Oblast, and one of the ones closer to the Ukrainian border. This thing has been hit in the past, but since then, the Russian Federation has been able to make the system operational again, and it appears that the Ukrainians once again were attempting this time to cause so serious of damage that they would not be able to simply repair the refinery in a couple of months and get it back online. And this time it appears that they're making sure that this thing will be offline for at least a year or maybe even longer, just due to the amount of explosive damage that was caused by the impact of the storm shadows. We were able to see that later on in the day, a lot of video and picture evidence was coming out showing that the entire refinery compound was on fire.
This is not a situation to panic in. Please make sure to go home and do not tell anyone about the fire. Please make sure when you go home to lock your doors and drink enough vodka to commit domestic abuse. This is a Russian state emergency broadcast, blade.
And
Make sure you do not breathe in too deep. You breathe in all this smoke. And actually, Ivan, don't worry. You smoke a pack anyway, so it's not going to hurt you any extra. Breathe deeply.
The Russian general surgeon says do not smoke cigarettes. Why would you do that when you could get the same health effects from breathing in fresh air? Go outside.
or something like that. It's
This
like,
is actually a feature, really. Like, the Russians, for once, can actually put the cigarettes down. They can just breathe the fresh air.
dude, it's like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. It tastes like Newports. It's something like that. It's like, I don't know. But anyways, we can see-
Comrades, we'll infuse the smoke with nicotine so you can get your hit.
Bro, there's some Russian out there who's like, you wouldn't believe it, man. It's crazy. I was addicted to smoking cigarettes and vapes, and today the sky turned black and I don't feel like smoking anymore. It's like, wow, what a coincidence. I wonder why. It's like, it's probably because of all that smoke. But there's the refinery again. Once again, pretty significantly damaged from what we can tell, and we have even more proof of this as we were able to get more footage of the refinery on fire. This is actually a duplicate of one of the other clips I just showed you, so we're going to back off of that one and move to the next one. I believe I put down a... Actually, this is a fresh one. They're driving right by.
Man, that's tough. That's a big fire there, actually, right in the middle of the equipment of the refinery, too. That's going to be hard to put out.
It looks like it's going to be a very tough day for the oil workers who have not been paid in 6 months, blade.
Man, this smoke right here is doing wonders. It's doing better work than the icy hot patch was stopping people from being smokers. Whatever it is, not an icy hot patch, but y'all know what I mean.
The nicotine patches.
Yeah, that's it.
Man, man, they putting on icy hot. Like, it's like...
They were relieving the pain, and it's helping the lungs, too.
Man, how did you quit smoking cold turkey? Well, simply with Icy Hot. Like, it's like a sponsorship for Icy Hot. But we also got another clip of the refinery on fire right here. Y'all know we don't smoke because Matthew said that you could quit smoking with Icy Hot. And I also was about to go with that until I started really thinking about it. Well, you see the...
I've got a new promotion for Shaq. You can try to promote the icy hot patch as a way to stop smoking. Hey, I'm talking here. Have you ever had an icy hot?
or something like that. It's like...
Have you ever had a pizza, a nice car, and an icy hot at the same time? We're melding all the sponsors I do together, so that way Big Shaq can really make the money.
But anyways, moving on from that and out of this clip, it is nice to see that they were able to really put some damage down on Novosibirsk. But what is even better is that just a little bit on up north in Kamensk-Shetinsky, we have been able to see that the Ukrainians also hit a rocket fuel plant inside of the town. Boy, howdy. This was actually located at Taganrog earlier. Apparently, this is from Kamensk-Shetinsky. Oh!
What's behind the fence, by the way? It's like Fort Knox with the barbed wire.
Well, simply, Matthew, these days, they have to put up that kind of stuff to stop the Russians from stealing bread. It's probably just a grocery store back there.
Probably so. They're just trying to keep them out of Tesco's.
Blit. That's just something like that. Yeah, I wonder what's back there. There's like guard towers down there. You see that? Like, right there?
Like a prison or something.
Man, what if it's just a normal factory, but it's like set up like a prison where you can't leave work once you clock in or something?
Yeah, I think that's for keeping people in and not out.
They check in, but they don't check out. But anyways,
You heard that last thunk? These guys right here around the edge of the perimeter are about to check out permanently. It sounded like it hit right next to them.
dude, hit the Jerry Seinfeld impression.
They can't. Wait a minute, hold on. They can check in, but they can't check out.
That's perfect. That was perfect. Dude, that was amazing. That was so good. But moving on from that, before I get completely overloaded by how good of an impression that was, the actual Storm Shadow attacks that happened inside the Rostov Oblast today did appear to cause a very significant amount of damage. We were able to see that a rocket fuel production facility in Kamensk-Shetinsky was hit, as well as an oil refinery in Novoshitinsk, and a fairly large metallurgy plant inside of Taganrog was also hit as well. It appears that the Ukrainians are trying to inflict as much economic and military damage onto the Russian Federation as they possibly can with these attacks, and also trying to make sure that the destructive damage levied against the Russian Federation is wildly significant due to the use of the Storm Shadows. We have seen that the Ukrainians have used FPV drones to attack refineries and other facilities in the past, but nevertheless, a Storm Shadow missile is able to carry an extremely high amount of ordnance. The warhead on board of the Storm Shadow is approximately 1,000 pounds, which is far greater than any smaller explosive that could be carried long range by Ukrainian FPV drone. For the large part, I would have to say that we are generally going to see that the Rostov-on-Don Oblast is going to be going through an economic and military downturn for the large part, at least in terms of production, because due to the loss of the refinery will have to be taken offline until it can be repaired, which may be an incredibly long time due to the extent of the damage, and also the rocket fuel production facility may have gone up entirely, although we haven't been able to get enough video and picture evidence on that to confirm that 100% or not. However, down in the area of the Taganrog region, we have been able to see that the damage that has been caused down there has been a little bit more serious and may also knock out that metallurgy plant for quite some time, which may start to knock out once again more Russian economic abilities and the Russian tax base that continues to finance the war. But still, it does seem as though a lot of people have been talking about the major strikes on the Russian Federation today and wondering if Ukraine should lay off to avoid the Russians firing another IRBM or not. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so 76% of the audience said Ukraine should keep up the attacks regardless of the threat of an IRBM strike, while 9% said Ukraine should lay off for now to basically lessen the risk, and 9% said just use common sense. And on this one, I'll have to say that based on Putin's statements that he made himself, it sounded like the IRBM strikes are imminent regardless if Ukraine keeps up the attacks or if they simply reel them back. So I think it's going to happen anyway. And also, the entire purpose behind telling people that the IRBM strikes were going to happen in the future was to deter Ukraine from attacking in Russia once again. So I'm personally with the 76%. They should keep up the attacks regardless of what the threats are, because those strikes with the attackums are so detrimental to the Russian forces in the mainland that it's scaring Putin to death, and that's why he's threatening these new strikes. So I'm once again with the 76%. I say keep them up and slam them hard. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree with as well. I believe that they should continue to slam the Russian Federation, because this is one of the only few ways that either side can really start to impact the other and start bringing this war to a close. And so for this reason, I do entirely believe that the Ukrainians should continue these attacks, as the massive amount of military and economic damage that they cause in the long run is significant enough to justify the continued strikes deep into the Russian Federation to destroy their economic and military abilities and to make them take peace talks a lot more seriously in the future. However, while this has been going on and the Ukrainians are putting their nail into the Russian economical coffin in a sense, it appears that the Russians have already done that themselves down in the area of the Kerch Strait. Now, Matthew, one thing that we do know about the Kerch Strait is that the story isn't exactly straightened out, at least at this point in this area. There's been a lot of things that have happened around here, and allow me to show y'all. This is actually a satellite picture that was taken today of the area. It appears that at least the barge flotilla that was made around the Kerch Bridge to protect it has mostly disappeared. About a third of the barges still remain, and it looks as though the others may have sunk in place to the bottom of the strait, no longer usable in the defensive element, and it also seems as though though the defenses of the bridge may actually be waning a little bit. We have also been able to see, funnily enough, over here, in this one in the middle of the screen, that the stern half of the Volga Neft 212, which was one of the oil tankers that sank a couple of days ago, actually washed up on the coastline right by the oil fueling facility south of Taman. Let me go show you that really quickly because that's actually pretty funny. So this is the oil refueling facility at Taman, and I also believe they do a little bit of coal down here as well. But this is the loading dock, I believe, for the oil vessels, if I'm correct. And let me see if I can find... No, this actually looks like a coal loading dock, actually, right out here, because you can actually see the aggregate cranes. But anyways, the Volganev 212's stern section actually washed up on the shoreline right about here. You can see that on the satellite picture right here. So if you're at that facility, you can actually look down the cliff and just see the remains of the 212 sitting down there on the shoreline right now. Well, at least the stern. The bow has gone under into the bottom of the Black Sea. Meanwhile, a lot of people are wondering, where's the 239? We don't even know where the 239 is at this point. We did hear that apparently it either sank or washed up on shore. We don't know what's happened to it. We don't see it reported of here in the satellite picture. But one thing that is really interesting is that the third vessel that sank is right up here. Because we know that the 212 and the 239 both went down to the same place, south of the Kerch Strait. But the third vessel that sank, that we had the video of the other day, but we didn't exactly know where it was, it actually was literally right up here on the shoreline in the Azov. In the Azov Sea. Now, this is a really big thing to explain here because the Sea of Azov is actually a sea that is rated for these vessels to travel in. It is incredibly shallow through most of it, only being around 40 to 50 feet deep throughout the entirety of the Sea of Azov. It is literally considered a kiddie pool in comparison to really what a lot of the world's seas and oceans look like in the severity of the storms. Nevertheless, when that storm came through, the seas got just rough enough in the Sea of Azov, being the kiddie pool of a sea that it is, that it literally split this vessel in two as well. It went under both the bow and the stern, and you still see the oil leaking out of the vessel as it sits underwater just north of Kachugari right here. So this vessel is right about here.
So that's how the oil got to the shore so quick. It was literally floating that way, and now even the hulk of the ship is floated that way as well. So, geez, that's just a huge disaster for Russia. And like we said yesterday, I really doubt Russia's going to clean this up. So I would imagine that part of Russia is just going to be screwed with the oil washing up from this point forward.
Man, simply unequivocally screwed. And if you were in the Hotel Paris right here, you would actually be able to see this from your hotel room, I'm assuming. Jeez. That is a depressing swimming pool.
Oh, man, the pool's already green. Like, I think the oil might be an improvement.
But dude, why is the water in the pool tilting? Do you see that? Like, the water over here is almost over the lip, and then over here it's like maybe like a foot down or something. I think the whole pool is tilting.
I made the pool on the vodka, блядь.
Boy, and also they have windmills. I thought the Russians weren't into windmills. I thought they said that was
Those are some pitiful looking windmills, by the way. Look, they've been put through the ringer.
I'll be honest with y'all, looking at the sea as it is right here, I would have already assumed that it had gone through an oil slick of some kind because that looks pretty bad. Like, that just looks terrible. Like, you know what this looks like? This looks like the mouth of the Mississippi River, the kind of water that comes out of there. Like, that looks like that.
It's tough. Who would stay at this hotel anyway? That's probably why the hotel looks abandoned. Nobody wants to be in this anyway, because who's walking in that nasty water unless you're drunk?
And if you ever want the Chernobyl experience, you could always come to this town because they even have the same Ferris wheel and everything that Chernobyl had. Oh. So you can get the same Pripyat experience in the comforts of southern Russia near the Krasnodar Oblast. They even have go-kart racing on these little... Actually, I can't diss on the go-karts that bad. They kind of just looks like any go-kart thing here in America. Okay, so I will diss on this, though. So they give you paper napkins decoratively laid out, a plastic cup filled with cranberry juice, a couple of slices of fruit, one wafer, whatever the hell those are, the tiniest sliver of cake, and then 2 other tiny slivers of cake. You're starving to death at this hotel. This place is bad, honestly. Oh, look, a charcuterie board. Man, this ought to be so damn good. Look at that. They got that, let's see, that Fanagoria out here, man. Like, I've always heard of that brand. When I go to fancy restaurants, they say, what kind of wine would you like, sir? Would you like some Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc? And I go, nah, man. I want that damn Fanagoria out here on this damn table right now. And what is it? A Pinot Ural. Yeah, wait a minute, hang on.
is Pinot Noir.
Yeah, Pinot Noir. So it's from 2019. This was a 1 year
That
old
was not a
wine.
good year for the Russians either, really.
No, it was a bad year. Also, they give you honestly, it kind of just looks like an average charcuterie board. Nothing really to write home about, though.
Man, what's in the mug though? Like you see, that's like black tar in the mug.
Some of the oil from the
Oh,
spill.
This is from the Vilganift, the circa 2024.
Let's see here. Huh. They put out a whole air mattress on the beach. Why?
Man, I don't even know. Like they have a big fence up too, like warning people to stay away.
They're keeping you away from the beach. I wonder why. Let's see here. What the hell?
Oh my God! What is the brown stuff up there at the top though? Like the fish are one thing, but what is that brown?
Rotted fish carcass, блядь. Russian
Yikes.
delicacy baked from the Volga. And we also have this shitty looking lemon that's almost white as paste, блядь. You could literally put this on a white wall and blend in. And also these fish look like they've probably been out for like 3 days, I'd assume. Also like the old rotting fish carcass that they put on the left side. Great selection, blядь. Also, we have this person over here that appears to maybe possibly be trying to end it all. I'm not exactly sure.
Man, they ate the fish.
I think they did. Dude, this person is wasted. It's just sitting there, and this guy is just too out of it as well. I don't even know. Ew.
This is just tough, man. Like the beaches in Russia. No wonder they're trying to steal the land from Abkhazia down there. Like no wonder, because this is tough.
Man, no wonder, man. This is freaking horrendous. And also, look at me. I'm so hardcore. I put the pocket knife through an orange, blade, and then balanced it on my wrist, on my chair, blade. So it shed like blade. I'm going to just skip that picture and not even comment on it. What is this?
It's like it looks like a shell. They put a pretzel stick in the middle of it and put some white sauce on there, and also some beet powder.
Man, you sit there and go, chef, this white sauce is very weird. Can I speak to the chef? And you hear, yes, and then you hear him go back to the kitchen. Giggity, 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 and you're like, oh no. Oh no. That's not good. Anyways, we're gonna stop looking at this hellish beach that this vessel went down, and I believe that the oil slick may be an improvement, as no one will be able to go to this godless land anymore and go swimming at the beach, at least for a little while. That's what we're hoping for, at least. But anyways, moving on from that, it does appear that the entirety of the Kerch Strait is in economic straits, as the oil is spreading everywhere, destroying local fisheries as it naturally will, and also making sure that no one can go to the touristy destinations such as Kuchiguri or even the wonderful city of Anapa, which I don't know anything about, but I am assuming that it is also crap as well, because this city looks as though it is a Soviet hellhole still. What is this? We could look at Russian towns forever. I'm not going to do that here because we do have a lot of news to cover, but geez Louise, the cubic... Like I don't even know what this is. The 8-bit line.
That's literally like the mask they wore in Squid Games for like the evil like people that were like running the Squid Games and watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's like the type of mask they wore. Was that type of geometry like that?
I'm not going to lie, man. I'm going to be entirely honest with you here. This place doesn't look that much better. So we're going to just leave it at that for now. But anyways, nevertheless, it doesn't seem as though the Russians are doing good economically. And so everyone's starting to throw around fingers. Who to blame? Who to blame? Who is going to get the blame for this whole economic collapse that's going on in the southern region of Russia? I mean, all the way from Rostov-on-Don, all the way down into the area of Krasnodar and the Kerch Strait. And it appears that the Duma has been able to find the answer. They're going to blame the bank. So here's them today actually addressing the head of the Russian Central Bank from the Duma. These are Duma members that are saying this to the head of the central bank. This is what they said. Also, I want you all to notice the smug attitude of this woman on the right. I don't know what her thing is, but she's very smug acting this whole video. I'm going to turn down the volume and read the subtitles below it so that way y'all can hear what this guy actually said. The central bank assures us that there is no other way to combat inflation than by raising the key interest rate. A question from Miss Nabiulina. Miss Nabiulina, since July of last year, you started raising the key interest rate. How much has inflation increased? By twice as much? Hey, Miss Nabulina, are you even rational or not? What nonsense are you spouting? What are you talking about? The key interest rate is crippling our economy and preventing the growth of our gross domestic product. This is the consequence of raising the key interest.
Well, what's he want him to do exactly? Because I think that is what you're supposed to do, is raise the interest rate to combat inflation.
Well, you see, basically, allow me to speak for the wonderful member of the Duma here, Blade. You see, it's not the fact that Russia has no trading partners anymore that's collapsing the economy and major industrial sectors built on foreign trade. No, it's not that. It's also not the Russian Federation throwing billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars a year into fighting the Ukraine war. No, simply not it. It is also not the fact that the Russian men have fled the country in the millions, completely destroying the labor base of the Russian Federation, and also due to the fact of major companies going under and the price of living skyrocketing to the point that no one can really spend their money because they can't even buy an apartment at this point. It just simply cannot be the issue, Blade. You see, the issue is that the bank is trying to respond to the damn problem, and if they weren't trying to respond to the problem, it'd just go away, Blade. It's magic, Blade. What the hell's wrong with you? Do you not understand? You see, like old Soviet Union, major problem exists, you ignore it, it goes away. Blessing in God, Blade. Blessing in Soviet Union. It's such a stupid philosophy that this guy has. He's like, the bank is at fault because the bank is trying to respond to the disastrous actions of the Duma and Putin. So for this reason, the bank is responsible for what we did to the economy. It's like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That is so goofy. Like you're saying though, like they're trying to blame this issue on the bank. It's like, this is not the bank's issue. Like, not whatsoever. Like, the bank is like dealt a really bad hand here. They have no way to really respond and actually fix the problem at this point. Raising the interest rate, they're screwing people over. Lowering it, they're screwing people over as well. So the bank is like basically has their hands tied, but Putin doesn't, and Putin is the one causing everything.
I'm telling you what, man. He's sitting there, he's like, these damn banks trying to fix the problems we make. If they just sit back, they get even better. It's like, what the hell do you mean? Also, I don't know, like, people are pointing out the woman that I was talking about. Does anyone else get that her attitude is just entirely smug the whole time? I don't know what it was with that, but she's over here like, you tell him. And it's like, what is he telling? He's not saying anything that makes any sense. He's like, the bank's responding. How dare they? It's like, well, what are they supposed to do? Like Matthew said, they can't do anything. Like, they either just do nothing and the economy tanks, or they try and do something and cook the books as usual, and the economy does badly, but it kind of survives a little bit. Well, I don't even know what the point of this is. And all these people are standing around like they came up with a genius idea to blame the bank for what they did to Russia. It's like, I don't even know what the point is. Like, I've seen silly stuff, folks, in congressional hearings in the United States, just being entirely honest from all sides. But I don't even think the dumbest moments in congressional hearings have ever gotten to the point of being as stupid as just an average Russian Duma session, or the average Russian Duma member. The smartest Russian Duma member is dumber than the dumbest Congress members that we have in the United States. That is not saying much in some instances right there. I mean, there's a lot to say, but we're not going to say it. But nevertheless, it does seem as though the financial woes are really starting to grip the Russian Federation and even starting to impact their military training in some instances, because we were able to see that the Russians are now training their soldiers on FPV drone evasion in the most high-tech, no-expense-spared ways that they possibly can.
Oh my God.
Let's watch
This is great right here, man. This training is top notch. Like, the U.S. ought to look at this and think, we'll never implement that.
No, let's watch it again. It's so. I'm not gonna lie, man. I think you're entirely wrong. Like, I think you're so wrong. You need to apologize to everyone here in this audience, because this is the future, Matthew. If you don't realize it, this is the most high tech training I think there's ever been out there. Watch it again. And if you say that this is a low-tech, Matthew, they're going to put you in prison in Russia if we ever go there. So let's watch this again, and let's make sure that we don't get in Putin's bad graces, because he truly is a powerful man with an incredibly well-trained and powerful army here. Let's watch this one more time. Did you hear that, man?
Put me in prison and put me in solitary, because I'm going to the Russian gulag with this one.
Did you hear that, though, dude? The guy got on the ground and he went dun dun while he was firing his gun at the thing. It's like, what is this? I don't even know what it is. This is the stupidest thing I've seen in a minute, and the war is filled with stupid things to see from the Russians. Look at this.
This is the, like, I will say this. I will give them credit. They were on a very tight budget here. They cut down some trees. They didn't even debark the trees. They didn't even shape the trees. They also put up some string. This was probably like a $50 setup here to do literally nothing. This just trained them to do nothing. The drones don't even fly like that. They're not on a pendulum.
Hang on, dude. I want to go find this. It hit me, and I was like, this is it. It's what they're training the Russians on right here is literally the Krusty Krab playground from SpongeBob. That little thing over there with my mouse cursor circling, that's what they're training them with.
Yeah, literally. It's literally the worst.
Yeah, no joke. It's literally exactly what it is. I don't even get it. I don't even get this at all. But this is what they're doing, and this is how they're training them these days, so I guess that is what it is, but you just can't make this stuff up. This guy doesn't even have his helmet on right. He's wearing it like a bonnet. Look at him. His entire forehead, his giant forehead is just open in the wind. Like he's not even wearing the helmet properly. Also, I'm just blown away by this stuff. You can never imagine the Russian Federation getting to this kind of a low, but you know.
If they keep this training up right here with the guy falling to the ground right there and swinging the drone at him, if they do it enough times, I'm sure the guy will accidentally discharge his gun right into his comrade over there, and he'll probably just go ahead and, take him on out.
Man, and speaking of taking him on out, man, he doesn't have to worry about other Russians doing it. The North Koreans did pretty damn good at that today because we were able to hear that 8 Russian soldiers got killed today in a friendly fire incident in between them and the North Koreans. And so it apparently this was an accident, but basically to explain the situation here, the North Korean soldiers in Kursk have never been outside of North Korea or really ever even seen anyone outside North Korea. So the only thing they know is themselves and South Korea, and also the United States. So now that they're in Ukraine, they have no understanding of who's who for the large part, and apparently no one told them who's who. So a couple of North Koreans today, well, I guess a large amount of North Koreans today, saw another large group of Russians and went, oh, it's the Ukrainians, get them, and then just laid into them and killed 8 of them. So there was a huge friendly fire incident that happened today, and it looks as though the Russians are trying to cover it up along with the North Koreans, although we did hear about it, and we don't have any video or picture evidence yet, but we're pretty sure that's going to be coming out quite soon. Still, it doesn't seem as though things have really been going better in Russia as a whole. Even if that was an accident between North Koreans and Russians, it seems as though even larger accidents are happening on Russia's railways in the northern area of the country, as we did get to hear that a bi-level commuter train within the area of Murmansk actually derailed today after it collided with a Russian freight train on the main line. Pretty interesting kind of a thing. Check it out. And look at that, jackknifed and everything. What a wonderful derailment. Now, this does not happen often. Here's another clip.
Я снимаю, давай.
We see them walking through the passenger car here. What's going on here? Glass is busted out.
Это просто пизда. Это просто очко, блядь.
Yo, did we derail, bliat? No way.
Oh my god, bled. The little area in between the cars, bled. Oh my god, we derailed. Holy moly, thank you so much, James Hughes, for that massive support.
Thank you.
Сереж, я без одежды.
And they're like, well, no way, we freaking derailed, crazy. And we also get to see it from another angle here.
Это пассажирский бунт. Здесь женщина почти без ноги.
This was one of the derailments of all time, at least for this area. It looks as though there was some sort of a signal passed at danger, sort of a situation here, which is a SPAD, or there was another incident where there was no signal pass at danger. They were both given green signals, and they pretty much just ended up colliding with each other. We do not know how many were wounded and killed in this yet. We did hear that a decent amount were wounded, however, and we haven't really gotten any additional news or information about that so far. It may be showing due to Russian military railroad traffic. The railroads are getting bogged down schedule-wise, and coordinators were really more so dispatchers and also station control masters, or really district control masters, really just the dispatchers at large, are being overwhelmed, or drivers are being overwhelmed with the amount demanded of them, and this may be increasing railroad accidents, such as crashes and derailments, which will be leading to a greater decrease in efficiency, and once again, a greater impact to the Russian economy at large. Once again, helping them to kind of dig their own grave economically in the bigger sense. But still, things just didn't go well for Russia today. So many accidents and so many mistakes, even amongst them and the North Koreans. And it seems as though a lot of people are talking about that little friendly fire thing. It was very friendly. It was a very friendly exchange of fire. We actually heard that before the North Koreans opened fire, they said, "Oh, you silly goose," and then just mowed them down. So we are knowing that it was friendly, but we are also wondering how friendly was it in reality. And it seems as though a lot of people are believing that the North Koreans and the Russians really just aren't getting along, and they're just blasting each other out there in the streets. And some others are saying that it does seem like accidents, because accidents happen. And others are saying that this is probably not even true. And some are saying that they're unsure. But Matthew, what are people saying about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so a whopping 45% of the audience said that North Korea and Russian troops are not getting along whatsoever, and it's probably fragging of these guys here in the Russian army, while 42% said it seems like accidents, and 5% said that this is probably not even true. And honestly, I'd have to say, based on what we've heard in the past, with the way the Russians are talking against the North Koreans, and also sending the North Koreans out first to go get killed on the battlefield, I would imagine that some North Koreans are wising up to this, and they're probably getting upset with it and taking it out on some of the Russian troops. And it's probably isolated instances of this happening, but nonetheless, there are some North Koreans and Russians probably not getting along, which is leading to these murders, essentially, of the Russian troops. So I would personally not believe they're accidents. Of course, it is possible, but I would lean toward it's probably not an accident. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say it's probably a accident. I would actually lean toward it is most likely an accident, because the North Koreans do not have any training. And y'all know that. We watched a video of them running across the field with absolutely no coordination or really any formations or structure or actual plan. They just ran, got gunned down, and then turned around and ran away. We know that they have no training whatsoever. And with that in mind, it probably is very easy for them, considering that their tensions and stress is running high, to mistake a Russian unit for a Ukrainian one and just open fire on them. Especially with the amount of casualties that the Russians took, it sounds as though the North Koreans saw the Russians in close proximity to them, panicked, thinking that it was Ukrainians, considering how badly they got beat on the battlefield the other day. I would bet you that they're probably panicked that the Ukrainians are just going to start beating the hell out of them every day. So they're like, "Oh my God, they're here!" And they literally just opened fire and started mowing down Russians. Because the amount of dead that were at least reported at the moment is so insanely high, there's no way that this could have been a little scuffle. This had to have been a complete breakout of a firefight because they thought that the Russians were Ukrainians. So I'm actually leaning more towards this was most likely an accident due to just a general lack of training and familiarity that North Koreans have with modern day fighting, really freaking them out to the max. And then when they see a Russian, or really to be honest, anyone who looks European, they just start shooting them because they think they're probably Ukrainian. So I would assume
Honestly, now that you say it that way, I would actually change my answer to the poll actually and say that it probably maybe would be accidental, because even though there are a lot of tensions between them, that actually makes a lot more sense. And I do see people in the live chat saying it's probably simply miscommunications, and that could be the case because there are no comms between the Russians and the North Koreans. They simply go out there and try their best, and trying their best for the North Koreans is not exactly what you'd call good. So it probably does end up with some Russians getting gunned down by accident, and then they realize, oh crap, I accidentally gunned down a comrade, and then they just simply run about their business and keep going. So yeah, I actually changed my mind for once. I believe what you're saying.
One second. I want to see if I can find this thing here really quickly, because there is something, propaganda poster or something that shows an American soldier, because I want to show you something that will really get you interested here. So let me see if I can find it. Jeez. They kind of hide these propaganda posters online, probably for a reason, because when you see it, you'll probably see the reason. Dang, where is it? Where is it? Let's see. North Korean U.S. propaganda. Let me see if I can just type that in. Maybe that'll give me an answer. Let's see here. Dang, they're gonna hide it, aren't they? Jeez, that's sad. I hate that because it's a really good propaganda poster. Y'all will kind of get the point of what I was trying to say if I could have this poster to show y'all. But instead, I'm just going to have to filibuster here for a minute while I keep looking and surveying and analyzing and inspecting. Because eventually I will find it. I will find it. But I will not. because they just do not have it. Basically, it was a U.S. soldier that was really caricaturized, and they made him look like honestly, it was like stereotypically white, and that's pretty much the only like to kind of explain something really quickly that's really interesting to explain. North Koreans never see anyone except for other North Koreans. So anyone outside of North Korea looks completely foreign to them. Like, they have no understanding of what folks look like outside of North Korea beyond what the government allows them to see, which usually is in propaganda posters or in some sort of a caricaturized form to make people look like they're savages compared to North Korea. So the reality is, what I was trying to explain there, is that North Koreans have probably never really seen, at least, in their common daily lives, white people. And so when they go to fight Ukraine, they're like, okay, we're going to go shoot Ukrainians. But then Russians and Ukrainians look practically identical to these folks, and they practically wear the same camouflage. That's why they have to wear armbands. So when the North Koreans see anyone that does not look like a North Korean, they're most likely going to automatically assume that they're a Ukrainian and start blasting them. That might be the actual reality of the situation there, because that's something that a lot of people have been kind of touching on a little bit, is that the North Koreans, or at least the average North Korean citizens' understanding of the outside world is not going to be that great, and they're also might be, well, it's not might, they're pretty racist. Like, that's just like as far as the propaganda is concerned, that's what they support. North Korea is an ethno-state. They do not allow marriages of North Koreans to quite literally anyone from any other nationality if they somehow are even in North Korea. So they may just generally have spotted Russians, mistook them for Ukrainians, and started shooting them. Like, I'm not even kidding. That may have actually been what happened there. So we'll see. I don't know, but it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. And maybe we can try and flesh that out a little bit more in the future, but that's about the best I could maybe explain it, is that they kind of have just been fed propaganda about people who would look like Ukrainians or Russians, and so they probably just assumed they were Ukrainians and started blasting them off the bat without really looking to see if their uniforms identified them as Russian or Ukrainian off of the armband, if they were even wearing armbands, because sometimes Ukrainians and Russians don't even wear armbands anymore, and they just kind of know how to identify each other well enough. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from our understanding at the moment. But with that, it is time for us to move on into something very interesting. A couple of people have thrown in some questions. And Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first super chat of the night. This one goes to James Hughes, who's a longtime channel legend, of course. Hey! And huge shout out to James for throwing in the biggest one of the night, a $100 donation, and helping to keep the channel running. And huge thanks to you, James. He said, Merry Christmas and happy birthday to me. And happy birthday to you, James. I didn't even know. Birthday. And happy birthday. I hope you're having a good one. Right around Christmas, too. So you get birthday and then Christmas. But he said, hopefully the wars end during 2025, and can't wait to see how much your channel grows, and keep up the good work, guys.
And thank you so much for the massive and generous support, James Hughes, and happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Hang on, man, you're running it. You're running it, man. His birthday just went to 0.
Man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support. And hopefully, the war will end soon. Hopefully, I would assume that it will hopefully end soon. Who knows? It might drag on for longer. But still, I thank you so much for the support. And hopefully the channel will continue to do well, regardless whether the war ends or keeps going on in the future, because I believe that many people are here to make sure to watch the news from this channel, because we do a pretty good job of covering news from around the entirety of the world, and hopefully people will still be around to watch it well on into the future. And I got to thank you so much once again for the massive support, James Hughes, this close to Christmas, because crazily enough, we have still not filmed the Christmas address yet. And that's something that we have to do, because it is a channel tradition. I don't know how we're going to do it this year, but we're going to give it a shot. And I really don't know when we're going to find the time either, because honestly, our schedule is kind of so filled up with just running the channel these days as it is. There really isn't a lot of time to fit something in like that, because it actually takes a lot of time. But I still thank you so much once again for support, James Hughes, and helping this channel to keep on running. A Merry Christmas to you, and a Happy New Year. And also, by the way, I forgot to mention, we do have to tell y'all that during Christmas, because this is the channel standard, we take Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. It's, I believe, one of the 4 days that we get off a year that is allotted on the channel schedule every single year. Our bosses are really demanding. The bosses are me and Matthew, so we always are on air pretty much every single day of the week except for 4 days. 1 day for Thanksgiving, 1 day for the 4th of July, and then 2 days for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So 4 days in total. So We will be off on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then we will be putting out the Christmas address on Christmas Day. I'm not sure how we're going to do it this year, but regardless of how we end up doing it, we'll make sure to have that out on Christmas Day for all of y'all to watch at night, so that way if you're looking for any sort of a message from the LSA that day, it will be there. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support, James Hughes. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and with that, it's time for us to get on to the next one, but a massive thanks to you once again, and I hope that everyone in the chat gives James Hughes a massive happy birthday, so that way he knows that the LSA is very happy that he has turned another year older. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $20 super chat from none other than Jay Bagwell, another channel legend, and thank you very much, Jay, for supporting the channel as well. He said, fun fact, the heir to the Russian throne of the Romanov family is an American businessman in Florida, and that gives me an idea. You know what that tells me, Jay? That they don't even want to live in Russia, and they had to come to America, the place that the Russians generally hate because we are Western, and they came here to start their business, apparently, because they couldn't get it going in Russia because of the way things work over there. So they came over here to start it, and now they're not even living in Russia, but yet they're the heir to the throne. Kind of interesting. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, it's not that simple. You see, the whole family got slaughtered in Russia. They got killed by the Bolsheviks. So it wasn't really like they were like, business isn't well, we'll move over here. Like, they had to flee. Like, any of them that survived fled, because otherwise they were going to get killed by the Reds.
Then how would they be the heir to the throne, then?
Well, simply because there's always an heir to the throne, Matthew, every single time. Like, if the whole entire family lineage is wiped out, they're going to find the nearest next of kin that they can, and then that person is the heir to the throne. That's largely how it works, at least. In some instances, though, it literally just fades away. I believe that there is a guy out there who's like an accountant right now, somewhere in the middle of Central Europe, who would be the Emperor of Austria-Hungary, but he's not, because the whole entire lineage, ceased to exist because of the collapse of the Habsburgs at the fall of Austria-Hungary in 1918. So he's just out there as an accountant now. But about 100 years ago, he would have been an emperor of a giant empire in the middle of Central Europe. But beyond that, let me see if I can find this guy. Let's see here. Let me go. Let's see. Oh, look, here's the House of Romanov. Everyone wants to be a Romanov for some reason. I really don't know why. And because everyone's like, are you a Romanov? And I'm like, would I want to be? It's like, they're all dead. It's like they didn't really have a good time, did they? Let me see here. Let's see. Let's see here. Who's the descendants? Oh, look, here's the mine shaft where all of them were found.
And who are these guys hanging out around the mine shaft?
Why, they're just little Reds, little commies, just hanging out around the entrance. But let's see here. I be dipped. I can't find the one where it explains the descendant, which is very unfortunate. But anyways, and point's proven. I have an idea as well, J-Bag. Well, what if we installed that guy as the next leader of Russia? Kind of like a Shah of Russia. Now, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I bet you that guy would be pretty happy with that whole arrangement, to be entirely honest with you. But I still thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, J-Bagel. And I thank you for coming up with interesting ideas. I'll make sure to use my contacts in the CIA to send that forward, so that way we can start to get that on the job, on the spot for the large part. Get that little thing rolling, Trying to get that happening. I think that'd be kind of cool, and it would be an American-aligned emperor, a czar of the Russian Empire. How cool would that be, folks? Wouldn't that be cool? A return of the czar. How neat. But anyways, with that, I thank you so much once again for support, J-Bagel. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is also another fun fact, man. Did you know when the Romanovs got killed, they were actually brought down into that mine shaft, and they were told that they were being brought down there to wait for something, and then they were going to move them on, but the whole plan was to gun them down the whole time. But the family had stowed away loads of jewels, diamonds and things in the pockets of the coats that they were wearing, and they were wearing pretty luxurious coats. And when they got brought down there, the guys started like shooting them up, and they were shooting everyone in the family up. I mean, like the daughters who were like, I believe 14 and 16, and Tsar Nicholas II and his wife and everything. It was a pretty gruesome thing, and it really shocked the world when they did it. But anyways, they were gunning them down. And because of all the diamonds and stuff inside of their pockets, some of the bullets were actually bouncing off of them and ricocheting around the room. And I think if someone ended up getting wounded, one of the gunmen did, when they were gunning them down or something, if I remember the story correctly. But it was pretty wild to hear that story, because it's like, man, they had that much in their coats that sometimes it was almost acting as body armor and just completely deflecting the round elsewhere.
That's an interesting fact. I guess the diamond saved him somewhat. But also, I got an interesting fact for you as well. Apparently, one of the Romanovs, who does live in Florida, or at least did live in Florida, by the name of Paul Ilyinsky, he was apparently the mayor, the three-time mayor of Palm Beach, Florida, and also the only child of Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich of Russia. So very interesting. So apparently he was a three-time mayor in Palm Beach, a place that many people know as being home to a certain person down there in Palm Beach. And apparently that fella was the mayor there 3 times. It looks like from maybe around 2004, that is.
So what's down here in Palm Beach? I'm looking at West Palm Beach. Is it West Palm Beach or Palm Beach?
Just Palm Beach.
Simply Palm Beach. Well, where is Palm Beach? I don't see it. I see West Palm Beach. I don't see Palm Beach. Let me type it in. Palm Beach, Florida. There we go. What is down here on West Palm Beach? I wonder, because you said there was a certain someone down here, and I don't know who that is, so let's find out. The Breakers Palm Beach. Wow, that's a pretty nice building. Yeah, that's pretty nice. What is down here?
You know, you had to be kind of rich to live in Palm Beach.
You kind of do. You kind of do. I don't see anything of note here. What am I supposed to be looking for? Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. Okay, now I understand. Anyways, moving on from that, that's very interesting here. How small of a world, Matthew. It's a small world after all. Maybe that'll get moved forward now at this point. Maybe the personal connection was made there to have the whole change of power happen. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, Matthew just told me to restart Discord because, oh by golly, is Discord failing? So we're going to restart Discord really quickly, and I'm also going to shut down that control room. Matthew, can you hear me well?
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Goodness gracious, Matthew. That lag is something. But hey, folks, you know something that's really good news for all of y'all to hear, right now? The new computer arrived today. Yay! We haven't set it up yet, but we do have a funny story to tell y'all. The computer is so powerful and drains so much power off of our home grid that it actually flipped a fuse today, if that's the correct term, Matthew, if I'm correct.
It popped the breaker. Yes, it did. But that's because we had a heater running over there, so we had to turn the heater off.
But that thing is sucking up power. I mean, like, that thing is it's going to require a small power plant to run the thing. But beyond that, we are going to be in the process of transferring everything over from the old computer to the new computer, so that way, hopefully, when the new computer is hooked up, everything is as seamless as possible, and it will be great. And we'll be fine, and the stream will run normally. We don't really want to have any downtime or lag time in running the show, so we're trying to do this as seamlessly as possible. So for now, the old computer is still in use, but we are working on transferring everything over to the brand new computer. I will have to create the intro over from scratch. I've pretty much just decided that at this point, which shouldn't be too hard, I don't think, because, like, in reality, it really is. Let me think. Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. It really is just throwing up some cards, getting the timer down, all that stuff. It shouldn't be that hard. It probably will take me all of Monday, though, this upcoming Monday, my off day, to do that. But that's fine. I can also work on that through Christmas if need be. And then we can put up a placeholder intro card with no date number on it and no Morse code message each night until we get that put forward. That could be a way to fix that for the most part. So we're gonna see how it works. But generally, that is the going plan right now, is to try and get it replaced. Hopefully, let's see, today's Thursday, right, Matthew?
No, it's Wednesday.
Wednesday. Are you sure?
Yes, it's Wednesday.
Oh goodness, I'm losing track of time. Isn't that crazy? I have such a blast running this channel. I thought it was Thursday. But nevertheless, anyways, we're hopefully going to have that up and operational by Monday. And let's see here. What? Let me look at the calendar. I haven't even looked at the calendar lately, folks. Oh, so actually, we're off for like 3 straight days, Matthew, because Monday is the 23rd, then it's the 24th and 25th. So we'll be back on air like on Thursday of that week. So we actually will have a couple of days to get this ready to go by the time we get back on air. We have 3 days off, so that will be plenty of time to make sure that's all working and perfect and everything. So that way when we come back on air, y'all don't even know that it happened. What a perfect coincidence right there, Matthew.
Yeah, it is a coincidence as well. Also, that gave me plenty of time to call Alabama Power and let them know they need to go ahead and flip the nuke reactor back on, as we need the extra power. Turn up the power. Turn it up now.
Man, we're gonna have like an arc reactor in here or something like that. It's gonna be upstairs going. People are gonna be like, "What is that noise?" We're gonna be, it's nothing. As their like skins like melting off and stuff. So you know, we'll
Raise the power.
Raise the power, cut the phone lines, stop the spread of disinformation. Like the director of, well, the mayor of the city. It's not the director over here. It's the mayor. The mayor of the city will be coming down here and be like, "What's going on?" We'll be like, "It's nothing bad. It's 3.6 Ronkin. Not great, not terrible. Go home." Something like that. We'll be like, "It's fine." But anyways, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, Matthew, was that the last question of this segment or the second to last one?
So we have one more to go, and this one, the last one of the segment, goes to none other than BC Skyman, the absolute channel legend, the old guard that is, and he put in the biggest super chat of the night thus far, a $105 donation, and huge shout out to BC for the massive support, and of course, helping to keep the channel running like always. BC is always coming in clutch with supporting the channel, and we appreciate that very much. And sadly, though, I just see some super stickers, nothing to address by a question that is, but I do see the YouTube Doge is jumping up in the fireworks. Also, I see that the cartoon character of a Xbox controller, or maybe an Atari controller, is jumping around, being super effective. And also, there was one more, but I can't see it. YouTube took it away. What the hell? But anyways, thank you once again, BC, for that. And Enforcer, what say you?
What happened? I don't understand. They took it away from me. Stole it. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much once again for support, BC Scamming. That is massive support. And from an old guard, a channel legend, no doubt. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And so I got to thank you massively for that once again. And I hope that does address that incredibly well. The best I can, at least. And I hope that really makes you know how appreciative we are that you have been with this channel for such a long time, and we really, really thank you for being here still. But nevertheless, thank you once again. And we are going to be moving on into the rest of the news, and we got so much of it. So let's get on down into the Kursk Oblast today and take a look. We were able to see that a little Russian convoy of Desert Cross UAVs from China were obliterated. That one flipped over.
Also, can you screen share? By the way, I'm trying to see this juicy video.
Oh my goodness. Matthew, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot that I was not screen sharing. Allow me. Here we go. Here's the clip. And look at that. Oh, terrible day. That's the end of that clip. But buddy, oh boy, oh howdy, does it not look good for them. We also got to see some recovery operations going on as well from the 225th Brigade today of the Ukrainian Army. We were able to see them driving on up there with their tank, and oh, what's that? Is that an abandoned MRAP? Well, they can't have that, can they? So he climbs on down, and we can now see them saying 24-13-3. It's almost like police codes out here. We got a 1330 on 09 in 10th Street. We can now see them hooking up the Max Pro. And hang on, y'all. I'm so sorry I was quiet there. I was just told some juice, and I was trying to make sure that I got my good fillings of juice. We see him now driving on through, recovering the Max Pro. And also, Russ G said, hope y'all can just connect to a different outlet on a different circuit in your house. It will be on a different circuit. But the problem is, though, is that we have space heaters in the house. So it's something of another that we have to kind of point out, that space heaters take up a lot of wattage. I believe it's like 1,500 watts or something like that. It's actually an insanely high amount. So we cannot run space heaters while this supercomputer is running. Otherwise, the drain on, well, actually not the drain, but the pull on the electricity is so great, it actually flips the breakers. So we will have to keep the heaters off while the computers, well, at least in this circuit, keep the heater off while the computer's running, which is pretty funny, honestly, because it's a beast of a computer. This thing is huge. It weighs like 60 pounds. It's got a, like, let's see, man, is it okay to say the stats on this thing?
Yeah, nothing wrong with saying the stats. The processor is an i9, the 14900KF, I think, something like that. It's also got the RTX 4080 graphics card in it. It's got about 64 gigs of RAM, and it's loaded out. Like, the thing's really, really good. It's got liquid cooling for the processor, so that thing is going to be a beast. So I'm sure it'll probably fix the lag issues and then some on top of it. So we'll probably never have lag again, hopefully.
Hopefully we will not. And also, we got to see that the Ukrainians were actually able to shoot down another drone today with helicopters. And we see them here chasing down the drone with their Mi-8.
And NoobTube said, hard disk drive or SSD? Oh man, SSD all the way. Those old hard drive disks are going out of style, so SSD is the way to go. We got the 2 of the SSDs, about, I think, 6 terabytes of storage in the thing.
Man, I'm telling you what, it really is that way, you know, it is. I mean, it really is. And let's see here. 1 second, y'all, I'm trying to follow this interesting story that I've been told. Wow. That is crazy, Matthew. That is crazy. The hot dog people know no bounds, do they? It's crazy like that. But moving on from that and down into the area of the location unknowns, we were also able to see some Panzerhaubitze 2000s from Germany being delivered to Ukraine. These things are amazing SPGs produced by the Germans for the German armed forces. But we've also seen a decent amount of these making their way back into Ukrainian military service. And we can see a couple of new ones, brand new ones, right here, getting on their rounds and being inducted into the Ukrainian armed forces. We also got to see some Ukrainian SPGs on the front lines as work, including this Dana SPG from the Czech Republic. I love Dana SPGs. I think they are so cool looking, and also this guy, it looks like he also knows it's really cool. It's good. You know it's good. But moving on from that now, the SPG pictures for the large part, we did get to see the Russian casualty reports, and boy howdy. Oh, look at that.
Oh man, we got 2 bobcats today. I have a feeling that the winter months are going to be kind of low for bobcats. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're not digging new trenches or something like that. I don't know, but it seems like they're staying low. But still, they are climbing up there gradually but surely. But Enforcer, tell us more.
And according to Ms. Disa, keeper of the records, 1,580 troops is the 18th highest daily loss, tied with 3 others, and is above the 7-day average. Tanks and artillery are back to lower levels in the past 2 days. But it's still great numbers all around. 1,580 Russian troops and North Koreans have been wounded and killed in the past 24 hours, along with 21 APCs, 60 supply trucks, 4 main battle tanks, 5 artillery pieces, 64 drones, and 2 Bobcat skid steers. Overall, it looks as though things are not going well for the Russians, and the Ukrainians are once again holding a pretty effective defense, at least for now. Meanwhile, moving on from that, I gotta say, Matthew, before we even move on into the frontline news, that is some wild stuff right there, man. How toxic of a community the Hot Dog Man's people are, that they can make an entire major YouTube channel that also covers the war have to make their Twitter private because they're, what are they doing, actually?
So just so we'll clue everybody in on this, obviously we're not going to name names, but apparently the Hot Dog Man's created a new enemy with one of his recent guests, and apparently the guest said some things that maybe his audience didn't necessarily agree with, so his audience went and started harassing the guy, and the guy had to make his Twitter page private because he got so much flack and so much harassment. So that is what we've experienced as well. It seems kind of odd that literally everybody around YouTube is experiencing the same thing that we got, and nobody really cared when his audience went rogue on us, and the Hot Dog Man encouraged them to go rogue and dox us and harass and stalk us. But now everybody else is learning too. So eventually people will stop working with Hot Dog Man altogether, and he'll do the work for us, basically, of going ahead and finishing off his channel.
Man, I would think that eventually YouTube would pay attention, or at least get enough red flags in this guy to pay attention, because I think at this point, he's just about doxed and harassed anyone who's ever crossed paths with the guy. And I feel like at this point, YouTube should start to take action against his channel directly, possibly removing it from the platform, because the community that he's created is the most toxic thing that exists, and he's probably the most toxic person in the entire, well, he's not even in the news platform anymore. I would say he's in the these in the dog shit platform. I don't even know what it is anymore, but the YouTube ought to look into that person and see about having them removed, because nothing good has ever come from that channel the entire time it's existed. But moving on from that and out of the area, we're now moving on down into Seversk, where we were able to see the Ukrainian FPVs using a little thermite mixture once again to cook up Russians in a dugout.
Man, that thermite, I was like, dang, that thing's carrying a lot.
Man, that thing was cooking it, and it really is cooking now. But that scene in that clip, and that was interesting to note. But moving on down into the Bakhmut area, we were able to see Ukrainian drones of the 93rd Mechanized Brigade downing a couple of more drones in the area. And here goes another one. Boom! Got it. Dead on the nail. Also, a lot of people are saying, who is the hot dog man? We do not mention the hot dog man's name. We call him the hot dog man because the hot dog man wants to rage bait people because he sucks as a YouTuber, and the only way he can get any kind of attention or views is by rage baiting. So we do not mention the guy's name because that largely is feeding into what he wants. So anyways, moving on from that, we were able to see that Alexander Syrsky, who for some reason looked very sweaty and exhausted in this picture, I don't know why they picked that one, but he did say that Russia has increased the number of troops in Ukraine by 100,000 this year, meaning that there's now about 300,000 soldiers inside of Ukraine. And this was in an interview with Le Monde, which is a French newspaper, but the Armed Forces chief noted that the conflict has reached such a technological level that we can now talk about the confrontation of technology and the confrontation of armed forces. That's usually the story of every war, but beyond that, he has said that this has significantly affected the tactics used by the troops on the battlefield. But still, very interesting to hear that the Russian presence has massively increased, but frontline advances have not really seen any noticeable change, at least at this point. But moving on from that and down into the area of Zaporizhia, we were also able to hear that a fighter bomber apparently had a very sad day and held a candlelight vigil as a Ka-52 got shot down by a friendly fire. It's so sad. And we can see that he's saying Eternal Flight Brothers and all that jazz as the Ka-52 did get shot down by friendly fire, and both pilots went down with the helicopter. Very sad.
And
indeed.
also, just for everybody's knowledge, they said in the post there that the crew was sleeping peacefully. As a result, thank you to the Russian actions, they say.
Man, a fighter bomber, every single time a Russian aircraft gets shot down by the Russians. Amazing grace. We're here, gathered here today to celebrate the long-lasting sleep that these pilots will be getting. You know, some stuff like that. It's like...
Round the sky, brothers. Round the sky.
Man, the sky is ground, or whatever the hell he says. The sky is 6 feet under, or something like that. He ought to start saying that one. But anyways, moving on from that and out of the area, we are going to be moving on down into, or we're actually going to be skipping the Georgia news because I don't know if YouTube really wants us to talk about that too much. But we are going to be moving on down into Tel Aviv, where we were able to hear that air raid sirens were sounding all across Tel Aviv as to who these did fire more missiles at Israel today. They were successfully shot down, but some falling debris did end up damaging a private school on the eastern side of the city. We didn't put the video or picture evidence of that on screen because, once again, we don't really know how YouTube feels about that one, and we kind of have to be careful about that. But beyond that, it does appear that there is a small amount of action from Iranian proxies that are still occurring, but it's largely died down since the collapse of the Syrian Arab Republic. Moving on from that, though, it is time for us now to get on into the speech. Actually, yeah, I got to tell you all about this one. Ukraine did announce today that they did have a laser weapon that is very similar to the Dragonfire. We've also heard that the British are possibly going to allow a couple of the prototypes of the Dragonfire to be sent to Ukraine for air defense work, and we were able to see a video here once again showing y'all the Dragonfire in its testing inside the UK. It's pretty cool just to see laser weapons now being used on the battlefield.
Also, the laser's purple. That's pretty interesting.
It is pretty interesting.
Danger. The laser turned on. Oh my god.
Man, honestly.
So wait a minute. So just to get this right though, like apparently the laser that Ukraine has was developed in coordination with the UK, or were they given the system by the UK?
We don't really know. The Ukrainian laser system sounds to be a lot shorter range. They said it has a range of 2 kilometers, which is equivalent to about 1.6 miles. So it's not incredibly long range. The Dragonfire, from what we understand, has a range of several miles. I believe it's somewhere around 5 to 7. So I don't know if this was independently made or whether they got a really weak prototype version of the Dragon's Fire from Britain. It's unclear at the moment, but the Ukrainians did announce that they have a laser weapon today, and they're going to be using it in the air defense role in the future. Also, why in the world did the British not just have safety on and safety off here on this screen? Like, why does it say danger laser on and no hazard laser off? I feel like it'd just be easier to go with normal terminology, which is safety on and safety off for the laser, so that way you know it's active or not. You know, that seems more so universal terminology to me. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe the British say, switch your guns to danger, or something like that. I don't know. Like, maybe they do. I just feel like that terminology is a little bit odd. Also, the way that it's not the same. It says no hazard, and then it changes to danger. Like, why not say no danger to make sure that it's a very analogous sort of a 180 from no danger to danger or no hazard to hazard. They went from no hazard to danger. Like, I was
It's very British. You know, the British equipment always has a little quirk to it. Like, they'll have a teapot in a tank or something, or the wording will be a little bit odd. Same thing here. Just a little British touch.
I suppose so, but still, it is a very nice weapon, regardless of my questioning of the way that they say safety on or safety off. The Dragon's Fire is one of the leading laser systems in the world currently, and it is an impressive weapon system, and hopefully we'll see it out there on the field doing great work in Ukraine here in the future. But moving on from that, it is time for us to get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 1029 of the war. And so, without further ado, let me go see if we have a newer speech, a fresher speech, a long-lasting speech. And let me see here. President of Ukraine. Let me see here. Let's go find his YouTube channel, which is getting buried these days, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so we have a very interesting one here. It's not long, but it is interesting. So let me move it on over to the screen. And without further ado, here is a speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy from today, I suppose.
Give me a speech. He's speaking into the dead
Good
cat.
evening, and I'm very happy to welcome the President of Ukraine, my good friend Volodymyr Zelenskyy, here in Brussels. We will have talks, the two of us, and also with our delegations, and then later on some of our European colleagues will join. They are meeting here in Brussels, and this is an opportunity also to sit with them. And very much high on the agenda is to make sure that the President, his team, Ukraine are in the best possible position one day, when they decide so, to start the peace talks. And that means that we have to do everything now to make sure that when it comes to air defense, when it comes to other weapon systems, that we make sure that we provide whatever we can. We know your request, Volodymyr, to make sure that I think it is 19 systems are delivered to Ukraine to protect the critical infrastructure. So this will all be on the agenda, plus how to make sure that when peace comes, one day that we also think about the economy of Ukraine now, but also after a future peace deal. And here I'm extremely happy with the Danish-Lithuanian initiative to not only buy weapons, but to buy them from Ukraine, from your huge defense industrial base. And this is good news, because this means more weapons for Ukraine, but also money for the Ukrainian economy. So this is a very practical way to support you. So all this will be on the agenda tonight. Again, Volodymyr, thank you for being here, for taking the time, and for being such a wonderful friend, and all my admiration.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mark. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, organizing this meeting with you, first of all, with leaders, and I think it's a very good opportunity to speak about security guarantees for Ukraine for today and for tomorrow, as you said. Almost everything said. So, but it's really very important that to use these 2 days in Brussels to meet with all our partners and to have the same, what is very important, not divided, the same joint position of Europe. How to secure Ukraine, how to strengthen us, our people, citizens, civilians, and of course to do stronger our army, which is very important. And of course you said about the priority, the winter, and of course it's about air defense, about the systems, the number of such systems It's very important for us. So we already had meeting with President Macron, and a little bit later we will have meeting with other leaders. Tomorrow we will share all our messages with all the EU leaders. So thank you so much.
Again, thank you for being
Thank you very much.
Great. Now we're going.
I'm sorry.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wait, who was that? He said, "No questions, thanks." Did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Who is that? Like, who is that person? But beyond that, Slava Ukraini, Herom Slava, and Herom Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Just like the guy at the end of the video said, "No questions, thanks." But beyond that, we are going to be moving on into the second segment of this stream where we get to talk to all of y'all. And what a fun segment it is, because we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all about all kinds of interesting stuff. Forget about all the wine and grime of today. Forget about people being harassed by the hot dog man for the 900th time. Forget about all that. It's time for the question segment. It's time for us to all take a little chit-chat and down memory lane, or maybe even memory street. You never know. You never know what kind of a street or a lane it would be. Maybe it's even an avenue. What were you to decide? But beyond that, it is time for us to move on into this segment. And Matthew, I understand that there's a lot of people out there talking about Fall Guys right now. And what are people talking about, Matthew? And what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, and unlike what Mark said there, we do have more questions. And our last poll right here says, the Russian FSB claims to have captured the assassin of the top nuclear forces general inside of Moscow. And what are your thoughts? So 63% said it's most likely a fall guy, and while 17% said we need more details, and 13% said it's probably the real assassin. And on this one, I will say the FSB is not exactly totally incompetent, but to have caught this guy this fast seems a little bit hard to believe to me. And Enforcer, I'm not sure if you actually show this in the news tonight. If we have, then good deal. If we haven't, we might want to show a picture or the interrogation video of the guy speaking, because allegedly this is the assassin of that general, and the FSB already has him and has already interrogated him fully. So apparently he admitted to everything, conveniently just admitted to all of it. So in my opinion, I'm with the 63%. It seems like it could be a fall guy. It could be the real person, but I have a feeling it could be a fall guy. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say that in my opinion, in my honest opinion, let me go see if I can get this really quickly. Let's watch it, and then I'll weigh in on my opinion. So let me go see if I can find it on our page. Yada yada yeah, blah blah blah, yeah, yippity 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 giggity giggity goo.
And also, like Angel Arch said as well, no way they caught the right scooter rider. How did they find a guy who planted the explosive on the scooter sitting next to the entrance of that building? How they find the guy that quick, I will have no idea. But yeah, this is allegedly the guy, so let's take a listen.
I am the guy behind the trap by scooting. But here we go.
Я приехал в Москву по заданию украинской спецслужбы. Я приехал, потом я покупал самокат, и через несколько месяцев приехал вещи для бомбы. Я это тоже принимал, потом все готовили и поставили дом, рядом дом генералом, и потом, когда он вышел дома, я нажимал кнопку. Почему я сделал это дело? Для чего? Меня предлагали $100 000 и европейский паспорт.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I think he's a fall guy, because why in the world would the Ukrainians be offering him a European passport, considering that there isn't such a thing as a European passport?
Yeah, and also his confession here is so like comprehensive. It's like, I doubt the guy would want to spill every single detail. He'd probably just simply say, yes, I'm the guy behind it, and that's about it. But it's like he went into like a specific detail about everything. Like, I did this because I cannot stand Putin. I did it because the Zelenskyy told me to. Did I tell you that Zelenskyy told me to do this? I forgot to mention.
I just went and looked. There is no such thing as a European passport. Like, there are passports that are issued by the countries of the European Union, but there is no such thing as an EU passport. Like, yes, there. Like. Here's the thing, though. Let me show you this. Passports of the European Union. This is a French passport. You can tell because it says European Union Republic of France passport. But this is issued by the government of the Republic of France, not by the European Union. And then there are multiple others as well. Check this out. This is a European Union Republic of Austria passport. Also, Österreich is pretty much what Austria is in their name. I believe it's something like the Federal Republic of Austria, something like that. But anyways, let's see.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm seeing something here. I didn't really notice this. Let's go back and take a look and see if this was the case. JR Does Stuff said he was reading from a script. Look at his eyes. Let's see real quick. Does it look like he's reading something?
Oh yeah, totally. Look, his eyes are moving with the lines.
Yeah, he's staring off to the left the entire time, looking at something. I think he's onto something. I think you're onto something, JR. It looks like he might be actually reading off a paper or something like that, or reading off a screen. You obviously can't see the reflection in his eyes if there is a screen, so maybe it's a paper or something. But yeah, that's weird. He is looking off to the right quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like if he was going to be offered a passport, it's like, why wouldn't they specify a country? Like, I was going to be given a Polish passport or a Dutch passport or a French passport. He just says a European passport. There is no such thing. Like we're looking at here, each country has their own independent passports because the European Union isn't a nation. It's a union of European states or nations for that matter. So there is no unified passport. Honestly, though, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm looking at all the... Holy moly, Italy's looks communist as hell. Like, that looks so communist, honestly.
That's Italy?
This is Italy's passport.
Man, I want that Italy passaporto.
Bro, it's like, man, I eat the pizza pie, I get the passaporto. It's like, man, what the hell? It's like, dude, this is literally as stereotypical as you could get. Like, I want the passaporto. Like, that's literally how you would say it if you were making fun of an Italian. Also, I like how they have a Unione Europea. Like, it's a P. It's a Europe. Let's see. Also, there's 2 B's in Repubblica Italiana. I'm not gonna lie though, this passport, honestly, that's a vibe. Let's see here. Luxembourg's is pretty cool, actually. I respect that. Let's see here. The paspoort.
Paspoort. Who is this? Netherlands?
The Dutch, yeah. This is the Dutch passport.
Huh, interesting. So the passport, it's like kind of like modeled after, you know, they're big into seafaring stuff, so maybe it's the poort.
Maybe. Let's see. Maybe. I don't know why I said that so Dutch. I didn't mean to do that. I was like, maybe, or something like that. But let's see. The Polish have a pretty nice passport. Honestly, now I'm wanting to look at these. Dude, Portugal's looks like a hotel card.
It really does. A little too contemporary for my liking.
Yeah, you put that up to a door and you hear it go, beep, and then unlock. Like, that's what that thing does. Let's see here.
Also, fun fact, Enforcer, I'm not sure if you knew this, but every single passport actually has an RFID chip inside of it, so that way it can actually be scanned by authorities in any country around the world that accepts passports. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. I did know that.
Yeah, very interesting. I've never seen one scanned, like actually like verified like that, but it does have that there if they wanted to do it.
Oh, what do you mean? Our passports were scanned like that every time we went to Britain. Remember, we would go there and they'd be like, let me see your passport. And they'd flip it open and then they'd push it down onto a scanner and then it would scan it.
Yeah, but they were actually scanning the barcode on the page with your name and stuff on it. They weren't actually getting the RFID off of it, I don't think.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I thought that was the RFID that they were getting off of that thing. But yes, I did know that because that's kind of similar to how we have like a universal way around the world of doing everything, like the navigational lights. That's not just an FAA standard. That's actually an international standard that the navigational lights have to be pretty much outlined the same way. The only people who don't follow that, I think, are the Russians. Everyone else follows the FAA guidelines. Because, you know, not the FAA guidelines, but really the international navigational lights guidelines, because a lot of things have been standardized globally to make it a little bit easier to understand and also not get away with counterfeiting. Also, I'm not going to lie, dude, the British passport is pretty baller. I'm not going to lie.
Man, the British passport is fire. Like, I like this one a lot. I like the color of it and everything. I like that crest, too. That's nice. What is that, a diplomatic passport?
Let's see, this is the current British passport. This was their EU design. This is their current non-EU design.
Interesting. Also, do you know what a diplomatic passport looks like? Have you seen one?
I don't know, actually. Oh, wait a minute, Gibraltar has its own.
Pull that up. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's like dark green.
Let's see, diplomatic passport. Let's see here. So let's take a look. Oh wow, dude, the diplomatic passport is like passport deluxe because it's like black.
It's so nice.
That is so nice.
Just a fun fact, if you're ever sent on a foreign mission for any intelligence service, by the way, not naming a specific one, you'll be given a diplomatic passport to enter the country, and you'll go straight to the embassy where you'll report for duty.
That is really cool. I actually like the emergency passport in purple because you like do the crip walk once you get it. You're like, man, it's an emergency crip walk. You know, like.
You know why you get one of those, by the way?
Well, if there's like a dire emergency and you lost your passport and you have to leave the country or something, they give those out at the embassies.
Yeah, if you lose your passport, I think you get like an emergency passport or a temporary one. I think they might just call them emergency passports at this point, but that gets you home, and then you have to get the actual passport.
And then they have an official passport as opposed to the rest of them that are also official. This one's just more official. And they also have the service passport and the diplomatic passport. I'm not going to lie, though, man. I think that one of the coolest passport designs in the world is America's passport. Like, not to be biased or anything. Britain's, though, I would say is like par on par with America's. I really love the British passport designs. But everyone else, like Sweden's, I mean, you know, it's all right, you know, like I just think the emblem's a little too small. Slovenia's okay. Well, what's the link to the image here? Oh, well, Spain's is all right.
That's a passaporte.
Man, well, you gotta have, and also the Czechs have the cestovní pas. I don't even know what that is. Like, well, it's passport, but I don't even know what that really means in a direct translation. What else?
Where's the Chinese passport? Did we see that one?
Oh, these are all the countries in the EU and their passports that we're seeing right here.
Oh, I'd be curious to see what a Chinese passport looks like.
Oh,
there's like a book.
Yeah, dude. There's this like it's a book. It's like I'm saying,
man, they've got the passport designed for that Lebensraum.
Dude, you sit there.
That's a joke. That's just a joke.
It's a prank. It's a prank, bro. But it's like you look at the German passport. You're like, wow, it's like a book. Yeah, there's this guy. He made a book. We make everything books now. Like it's just a thing, you know. Like it's like, oh, okay. Well, you're
this passport hits different. It's the Rasa pass. I get through no matter what.
Man, this is the one that says, "You let me through, or I invade your country, you son of a bitch." It's like okay, well, you're in. You're like, hey, come on in.
On the back of the passport, it just says, if you don't know what this passport is, let's just say it by the other names, papers.
Yeah, it's like, let me see your papers. Finland has a pretty cool one. That's not bad. Let's see. Estonia actually has a pretty baller one. I don't know what's up with the little stick figurines of trees down there at the bottom, though. I don't really know if I like that. Let's see. Denmark. It's all right. The Czech Republic actually has a pretty cool one.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Oh, come on. Croatia? I don't know. It's all right.
Nah, I'm not feeling that one.
Bulgaria? That one's kind of cool.
Nah.
Okay, all right. You're kind of picky. Austria?
Nah.
Also, why in the world is this woman on the ID giving us the Osterreich stare? What is going on here with this picture? Like, that's the most blank
I'm not gonna
facial.
lie. That woman's passport photo is like 20 times better than mine. Mine sucks. Like, it really, really does suck. Also, like, I don't know how long passports last, but it seems like I should probably get my photo updated at this point or something. It's been like, I think, 6 or 7 years, I think, since I got my passport.
I think so. Let's go look at the Chinese passport, because I'm interested. Dude.
Oh, Bingshiling.
Commie! Like, it's commie as hell. It doesn't even... that's interesting. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense because this is Zhong and this is Gua, and together this means China. Zhonghua, it means China in Mandarin. But what's interesting is that they have a load of characters in between. And I guess it just stands for the People's Republic of China, and the whole thing is within the confines of the characters that would represent China put together, Zhonghua, so I guess that's just how they write People's Republic of China in Mandarin. I've never seen it spelled out entirely, though. I've always just seen Zhonghua, and that's it. But that honestly...
And also it says a biometric passport. Like, what's it mean by that? Is that different than ours?
Let's see. What is a let's see. let's see, hang on, launched a trial issue. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs launched a trial issuance of e-passports for individuals conducting public affairs works overseas on behalf of the Chinese government. The face, fingerprints, and other biometric features of the passport holder is digitized and stored in pre-installed contactless smart chip, along with the passport's owner name, sex, and personal photo, as well as the passport's term of validity and the digital certificate of the chip. So
Wow.
I guess it's different. This is also what their papers look like.
Interesting. Their papers. There's their papers. But I guess that must be different from ours because I don't think our RFID chip. I don't think those actually store a photo and all that stuff in it. I don't think. I think it just has our name and like verification numbers.
I think so. Also, let's see here. Let's look at their different kinds. So this is their diplomatic passport. Not bad. This is their service passport, which kind of looks really commie. This looks really, really commie. This is their public affairs, and this is their ordinary passport, which we already saw. What does Russia's passport look like? Russia passport. I mean, it's kind of mid. It's not really like, I thought it kind of looked kind of cool. It kind of just looks like any other European passport, to be entirely honest. It's not that impressive. So, one second, y'all. I got to restart Discord again. Actually, I'm going to try this, Matthew. Did that fix anything?
Yeah, a little bit. What happened?
I just shut down the control room.
Okay, yeah, that's it's definitely that doing it then, because it just cleared up.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave the control room closed for a while. Sadly, y'all will not be able to talk directly to me because I won't be able to see the chat for a while. But this thing's kind of mid. Like, it looks like any other European passport. It may as well be like, France's or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not liking this one right here, I just don't like the Russian crest either. Like, forget the whole war and stuff like that going on. I just don't like the crest. Like, I don't like the two birds here or whatever. Like, what are those, by the way? Eagles or something?
It's like a double-headed eagle or something. It was an old crest from the Russian Empire that they kind of brought back for the Federation.
Yeah, it's like the evil eagles or something. It's not like patriotic looking like our eagle. These eagles look like they're sick or something.
Man, these look like they're really like power hungry or something. It doesn't look bold or anything. It just looks mean and contorted or something. But beyond that,
like the head of a snake on this eagle right here. It's like, what's up with that tongue on that eagle?
That is a good question. But something that is really interesting about the Russians as a language, Matthew, is that a lot of their words never existed. Like the Russian for passport down here, you see it?
Yes.
That actually literally sounds like passport, if you say it like as it is, because these pie-looking symbols here are actually P's. The P is an R, and then the C is an S. So it literally is just passport, because there was not a word for passport in the Russian language. So they just had to Russify in their language the English word for passport. So then they just spelled it to where it sounded like passport in English, but it was actually written in Russian. Same thing with federation for the large part.
That's very interesting. And also, by the way, I was getting distracted here. Some people were talking about those snakehead eagles right there. And people were saying they look like maybe buzzards or something like that. And it could be. Also, someone said it's two-faced, just like Putin. Yeah, that's a good one as well. Like, really, it is. Two-faced eagle or vulture, buzzard, whatever you want to call it. It's just bad. And also, one of them is holding a staff, which is interesting. Also, one's holding a crown. So power and authority apparently is the theme here. Yeah, it's just overall like. Also, is that like crowns on top of the vultures too?
Yes, I believe there was some sort of like a thing where they actually shared 3 crowns in the royal family of the Romanovs or whatever, and so the 3 crowns were inherited. I think one of them is actually the crown of the Byzantine Empire or something crazy like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I just don't like it. I've never cared for it.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's not that great. Soviet passport from 1929. It's probably a good time
People
to get
allowed
out of
to leave the Soviet Union.
Very limited instances. Very, very limited instances. It pretty much had to be approved literally at the top in the Presidium for you to get out of the Soviet Union. For most of the history of the Soviet Union, but.
What's a Ukrainian passport look like, by the way?
You know what? That's a good question, Matthew. We never asked that. Ukrainian passport. It's all
I
right.
actually like the Ukrainian passport. That's actually kind of like simplistic and clean. Like I like the color and the trident goes hard. Like really, I'm not being biased just because we're pro-Ukrainian. The trident really does go hard. I like the gold too.
I don't know. I mean, it's okay. Like I would like for some reason I like the blue. I think the blue's good, but I don't know. It just kind of looks like this thing was stamped out kind of quick. You know, like with a lot of them, there's like this whole cool engraving thing going on. You know, on the front. This like I like the trident, but it kind of seems a little simple to me. Like I like the complexity of the other ones a little bit more.
I don't know. I kind of like it. You know, if the U.S. like tried to change our style at all, like in the future for our passports, it would be cool if we like copied a similar design to those, but instead of putting the trident, we just literally put an American flag in gold, like right in the middle of it. That would actually look pretty clean.
I don't know. I like the official U.S. seal that we have on the U.S. passport. Right here, like the official seal of the United States. I think that's really cool looking. Me personally.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think if you put like the American flag in like gold, like that would look pretty sick. I think.
Are you telling me that that doesn't look cool to you?
I mean, it looks cool, but just like switch it up, or I don't know if you can give people an option for a passport. That might get too complicated, but you could like put that flag on there. It'd look good. Like I'm going to run a poll on that one, by the way. Which one would you like better?
I think the crest of the Republic is one of the most impressive things that could be put on a passport. It looks good. It's American. It's a great thing. And also someone said, that's a bird, not a seal. No, this is actually the seal of the United States. Like if I pull up the seal of the United States, this is our seal. So let me go get it here. Here we go. Great Seal of the United States. This is it. Not the one with the little pyramid eye thing. That's for the dollar. It's this one.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
And let me see if I can scroll down. Here we go. Here's another one. So this is the Great Seal of the United States. This is our seal, and it's a wonderful one. It looks great, and it's very complex, but it's very classy, very tasteful. And I think that the Great Seal is honestly my preferred option for the symbology of the United States. The American flag is beautiful. The Stars and Stripes is one of the most striking and most recognizable flags on the planet. It is very complex for a flag design, but at the same time, it pulls it off with a great deal of class when you look at it. Like, there are a lot of flags out there that are less complicated than ours and are hideous. And so, let me see. Well, you know what? Let me just type in the U.S. flag. That'll get it for us. So here we go. This is the flag of the United States. Everyone knows it. Y'all all know it. It's legendary. It's so complicated. It has 13 different stripes, a union of blue on the flag, which is a whole other 14th element, and then 50 additional stars. So in total, there are 64 identical items on this flag. As far as the complexity of the design, it is, I believe, one of the most intricately designed flags out there on the planet right now, but it is also one of the best looking. I would say that the only flag that really gives, well, the only flags in the world, in my opinion, that really give the United States a run for its money is the United Kingdom's, without a doubt, which is probably, I would say, the classiest flag in the world because it really does look good. There is also the French flag, which is pretty decent, the Russian flag, which is pretty recognizable as well, the Chinese flag, and the Japanese flag. Every other flag is okay. Like, you know, they're like the German flag is nice, but I feel like it's on too much of the darker side in the color tones. The rest of them usually use some form of red, white, or blue in their flag designs, and it looks really good. But I would not put the American flag on the front of a passport. I just don't really think it would represent too well on the front of a passport. I think the Great Seal really represents it a lot better. And if I remember correctly, E pluribus unum means something of like of the many one or something like that. It's a very, very good motto, and I think that it's a great one to have on the front of a passport as well. It really gets across the spirit of the Republic in a seal form, rather than just a flag, which the flag does a lot and represents a lot, but I think the Great Seal is very, very good for the passport because it just look at that.
Also, e pluribus unum means out of many one. Just to get it exactly right. That's what it means. But also, Enforcer, we did run a poll on this question. What symbol would look better on the U.S. passport? 70%, the overwhelming majority, said the U.S. Great Seal, which is what we currently have, while 30% said the American flag. So it looks like many people definitely prefer the seal over the flag. Me personally, I think if you could see the flag on the passport, I think some people might change their minds, but still, a 30%, that's still a sizable amount them out. But it looks like the seal will be staying. I will say this, though. I'm not against the seal. Like, it really does look good on the passport. But I think the flag would also be a good change eventually, just to change it up.
So are you saying like a flag waving in the wind, or just like the rectangular, like basic shape of the flag just printed on a passport?
Literally just the rectangular flag, and just literally just the lines of red in gold and the stars in gold, and that would be it.
We might be able to make a mock-up of that in Canva. I don't think that look like me personally. I don't think it would look good. Like if you had one waving in the wind or something, you know, like just the simple flag outline on a flagpole, I think that might look cool. But just a rectangular shape, I don't know. I think the Great Seal would beat it out every day, because the Great Seal, like, if you look at that, man, it looks federal. Like, it looks like it comes from a republic. You know, it's not just any country out there in the world. It's America. And this is recognizable across the entirety of the world as the United States, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It does. I mean, it looks cool. Like I said, it looks cool. But I just think the American flag would look neat. Then maybe they should put the American flag, like, maybe, like, in the interior cover or something. That would look pretty cool. But they do have it in the background of the first page, like the identification page of the passport. It is in the background, I think, like on the first one.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can show you all the inside. Oh, what's this? Is this oh, this is the, isn't this the green card?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Let's see here. Here we go.
Yeah, there's the American flag in the background. They got the eagle looking a little cartoonish. And also got the preamble in there, too.
Man, honestly, though, that eagle is kind of looking really chill. He's like, hi, I'm about to go to my 9 to 5 as an accountant. It's like, okay, well, thank you, eagle. It's like...
You know what it looks like? It looks like the face you get when you walk into the airport and you realize that TSA is screaming. That's the look you get on your face of what the Eagles got going.
Dude, when you walk into the Hot Dog Man channel, you see he's still taking advantage of a vulnerable Ukrainian refugee woman. And that's the face you make. It's like, wow, that's new. Like, that's kind of messed up. And also, I like how they included the stalks of grain in the background. I think that's a nice little addition right there. The whole prosperity side of things. But what are the other pages look like? Because the pages of the passport, if I can find it for y'all, actually are really cool. Each one is different and shows a different part of the United States in it. Like, I think the American passport is incredibly neat. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's one of the pages. It shows the Statue of Liberty as well as the tablet that the Statue of Liberty is holding. It's really cool. Like there's a whole bunch of cool stuff inside the passport. So that is neat in a very cool way. Also, take a look at this. There's the Great Seal in the background again on the inside document right here. And also, Matthew, I like how this is the example and the first name is Happy Traveler.
Happy Traveler. If he's flying, I wonder if he's able to stay a happy traveler for long. I think he might turn into a mad traveler real quick.
You son of a... Like, it's just like, I just almost broke my hand right there because I
If you got a jacket on, take it off. Take it off. Put it in the bin. I told you once. Put it in there.
Let's see. What does this say? The Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby requests all whom it may concern to permit the citizen national of the United States named herein to pass without delay or hindrance, and in case of need to give all lawful aid and protection. Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that they actually had like a specific statement of the Secretary of State of the United States in each passport. I never actually paid enough attention. And it actually says it in French and Spanish as well.
Interesting. So they're trying to make sure everybody understands. Please let this person in your country, please.
And if you don't, we're gonna bomb you. It's just like that's like the hidden thing behind it. It's like we will give our citizen all the lawful aid and protection they deserve by taking over the country and bringing in a new government. Yay! It's like, let's go to Iraq again. No, it's like,
oh
man,
no,
like,
no,
oh,
no, Jack. Also, you know a trick? Like, this is a travel hack, by the way. You know how your passport lets you stay in a foreign country for 6 months? You know, if you go there, you get to stay there for 6 months, but you can't stay beyond that, or what happens?
Well, you would get deported usually, but that's only if they find you.
Yeah, or you can get a free Visa card, and you can spend like a hyena.
What?
You don't know about that? After 6 months, you can get a visa, a free visa.
Oh, I see the pun. Giggity. Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah.
Now,
a free visa. But also, by the way, I don't know. I've never had to do this before because obviously we've never stayed somewhere overseas for 6 months or more. The most I've stayed overseas, and me and the enforcer has been, I think a week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that. But I don't even know what the visa process is, to be honest. Like, how long does that allow you to stay somewhere?
I think it's like 6 months or something like that. It's a pretty lengthy stay.
Just wait a minute. I thought the passport let you stay for 6 months.
Let us find out. All U.S. passports are federal property and must be returned upon demand.
Also, you can't deface them either. That's a crime.
Let's see. Let's see here. Trying to see. Huh. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Let's see.
Oh, let's see here. It says the validity of a visa depends on the type of visa and the issuing country, but generally a tourist visa, like the US B1 or a B2, can be valid for up to 10 years, allowing multiple entries within that time frame, while the maximum stay per visit is usually around 6 months or so. So, interesting. Very interesting. So it depends on the country. Like I saw some people in the live chat saying here, it depends on which country you're going to and how they issue their visas. But generally, though, the passport is standardized. You can stay there for up to 6 months, to my understanding. Just on the passport alone.
Interesting.
I think. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let's see. How long can you stay in a country with just a passport? So I actually may be wrong. Let's see here. I was under the impression you could stay somewhere for 6 months with just a passport, but it looks like up to 90 days for tourism in most countries, actually, and it depends on the country.
See,
that's very interesting. I thought it was 6 months. So apparently, you can only stay somewhere for about 90 days on average in most European countries with a U.S. passport. So I was very bad wrong on that. So don't do that, or otherwise you could get deported.
See, I told you it's 6 months with a visa, not a passport. 6 months, 6 months.
Yeah, you're actually right.
But also, Matthew, I just saw something really interesting. The United States passports are issuable only to persons who owe permanent allegiance to the United States. So that means that Hot Dog Man could not, because he would be like a leaf in the wind. He would be loyal to America one day and not the next. What do you know? But let's see. Also, one thing I found really interesting is that apparently every person born in the former Panama Canal Zone whose mother or father was a citizen is also a citizen of the United States by birth. So if you were born in the Panama Canal Zone, which existed in this area in yellow, while it existed from, I believe, 1908 up to 1979, you were a citizen of the United States of America.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you get a passport down here. That's really neat. We actually gave this back to the Panamanians after a while because we found out that it made them really, really angry when we, took their land from them and built a giant canal and didn't really ask them or give them any money. So now the country of Panama makes a killing off of running this canal. But that's also changing because of due to some things pertaining to the climate, which I can't really say directly because for some reason that's a very political thing. The lake that it actually uses to get its reservoir of water to allow ships to transit up and down the locks, it's actually running out of water. Both Lake Alajuela and also Gatun Lake, which is the main lake, are both reservoirs and water supply for the Panama Canal to actually use to fill and empty out the locks, and it's running out of water. So they're actually having to limit the amount of transit permits that can be given to cargo vessels at this point, which is creating a massive bottleneck right now in cross-American trade, and they're trying to figure out a way to get around this or really fix the problem. And so a whole bunch of people are trying to come up with new ideas, and one of them is being made right now, which is a superhighway across South America, where the cargo will be transported across the South American continent to the other side and will generally circumvent the Panama Canal entirely. That's at least their business plan. I don't know if that will ever work, but that's kind of their attempt down there right now. Still, this is a very interesting and major strategic control point in the world right now, much like the Suez. But what is really cool is that everyone always talks about how impressive it was to build the canal, but there really isn't a lot of the canal more so. It's really Gatun Lake. And the actual canal itself is pretty small. They dug out this area here, as you can see, and then they dug out the original locks, which were over here. This was the original set of locks. And then they built a new set of locks that's capable of allowing larger ships, I believe these are called Panamax ships, or new Panamax ships, that are able to transit the larger size locks over here. And then on the other side, you can actually see the larger channel that they built through here, which is actually what was actually built by, I believe, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, along with other civilian groups. And then you can see the new set of new Panamax locks, and then the old Panamax locks over here that were built originally, and then the new ones built alongside them, that then once again break out into the open sea, and then it makes it to the other side. So it's not an incredibly large project, but considering the massive amount of lock works that were involved in making this, and also the giant canal length that was made here to get to Lake Gatun, it was pretty big in the end. But not as big as people think. We literally did not build a canal across the entire length of Panama. We just took advantage of the lake that was already here and then built the canal to connect to the lakes and then make it from side to side. A lot more genius of a solution than literally just digging a literal canal straight through one end to the other of Panama. That would be kind of a little stupid. But anyways.
Also, apparently it's very expensive to go through the Panama Canal too. It looks like, on average, it looks like a container ship could be paying anywhere from $60,000 to $300,000 to reserve a slot to go through the Panama Canal based on their size, and also additional fees based on the number of containers that they're carrying. So it's pretty steep.
It is pretty steep. And I believe they allow in a couple of dozen a month. So usually they're making the Panamanian government is making a killing off of that canal. So it's pretty cool for them. You know, it's an endless money machine. As long as Lake Gatun and Lake Alajuela have water in them, they are able to make money. But that's the problem, is that they're running out of water, and there's really no way to fix that at this point. But the Suez Canal is quite literally an insane money machine. There are no locks in the Panama Canal. You just pay to transit it, and you go straight down pretty much in a chute. There are large queues though, and I wish that Google would show that, but there are huge queues to get in and out of the Suez Canal on both ends. And also, there's this little lake here called the Great Bitter Lake, which is also really interesting because a merchant ship actually got stuck in here for a couple of years, and the crew had to stay on board for, I think, 7 years or so before they could actually leave the Suez Canal. I forgot what happened with that, but it was a really interesting story. But beyond that, I completely forgot most of the details. Anyways, enough about canals. We're just channeling on to the next question here at this point. But with that, we are on to, I believe, one of the first questions of the segment. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our first super chat of the segment is going to go to David Flynn, who puts in a very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, David Flynn, for that support and helping to keep us running. And David said, no question, I'm just donating this year for Corgi bun warmers and LSA forever.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and donating to Corgi bun warmers. And the little wee worgies, they need to be warmed. They're little babies. They're sweet little babies. I was on the floor petting them today, and little baby Sheba, she was sitting there just hanging out. She's very fluffy. She's like a giant fluff ball, like a pillow almost. And I love those little dogs. Mr. Corgi, he's very sleepy these days. I don't think he gets a lot of sleep. But he's an absolutely precious little thing, and we love them so much. And we thank you greatly for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, and also making sure to help out those corgis to get those bun warmers, because those little baby corgis have to stay warm. They just have to. It is the law. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Wubba, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Wubba, for that support as well. He said, I'm recovering from the Wuhan whirlybird round 2. Don't make me laugh too much because it hurts. And also, I'm glad to hear you're recovering from that. I had the original one once, and then I had some other version a second time. The first time, it was like I went to hell and back. The second time was just like a mild, sort of like really nothing, actually. It was like a cold. But the first one was tough. So if it was like that, I feel for you. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I also gotta say, I hate to hear that you got the Wuhan whirlybird. I've gotten it, I believe, twice at this point. Last time I had it was a while ago. Y'all all know, because I had to take off a week from the channel. I think it was like last year or something like that, in the middle of law school. And what was great is that the law school didn't want to give me the days off, although they said that I had to quarantine because I couldn't get everyone else sick. So they were like, you have to quarantine, but we're also going to punish you for quarantining. It's like, well, then, and I remember that, Matthew. I was on the phone with that goofy what was it, the assistant dean or something like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, look, do you want me to come down to your office and talk to you about this? Because I'm perfectly fine with coming down there as sick as I am with a positive, Wuhan whirlybird test and talking to you. And she was like, well, no, I don't want you to do that. I was like, so why in the world are you going to make these abscesses not count, considering that you don't want me down there? And it also says in the handbook to quarantine if I get it. That was such a goofy thing. And I don't know if people are stupid like that, with what you're having to deal with right now. Well, because if so, that would be aggravating to deal with, because I personally know it was aggravating, and that was one of the things where I was like, you know what, I think I'm done with law school. That was one of many. The other thing is that when the hot dog man was in his prime in harassing us and using his community to harass us, they had the genius idea to have us swatted at law school, which luckily I actually went and reported that to the police department on the campus right as they were doing it. Like literally as soon as I sat down in the police office to talk to the chief of the police at that campus, the call had actually just come in right before I sat down in that office, and he literally explained exactly what I was explaining they were going to say to him before I even said it. I said, well, how do you know that? And he was like, well, they just called. And so then there was a police report made, and funnily enough, Hot Dog Man is actually trespassed from that specific campus right now. Like, he is not allowed on that campus for that reason. There's a police report that was made about it and everything, but beyond that, the next, I was dealing with that all day, just to keep this in mind for y'all. So I was not able to attend the normal classes. So I get back at the end of the day from dealing with all that all day, and someone said, hey, where have you been? And so I was like, oh, well, there's this like crazy thing. Someone tried to swap me here at the school. Like this crazy guy in his community, like endlessly harassed me. So I had to go deal with that and file a police report. And so they went, oh, well, dang, man, that's crazy. I hope everything's good. I was like, yeah, everything's fine. It just is what it is. So then I got home. Like, this was another thing where I was like, I'm done with law school. I got home and I get an email from some other person who's higher up in the law school. And they're like, this is urgent. I need to talk to you immediately. And I was like, I just got done dealing with that all day. So I was like, what? Did someone just try and show up to the law school and like, shoot me or something? I was like, I don't know. So I was like, yeah, sure. I can show up tomorrow morning into your office. Go in there. And then they ask, who did you tell that story to? I was like, one person, because they asked about it. Yeah, you're not gonna tell that story to anyone again, or else there's gonna be some consequences. And I was like, so wait a minute, there's gonna be no consequences for the people who are threatening to swap me, well, actually tried to swap me, and are threatening my life. Y'all aren't going to do anything about that, but you're going to take action against me because someone asked about it because I was gone from classes all day. And I told them about it. It's like, what kind of sense is this making here? And it made no sense. And then at that point, I was like, you know what? I think these people are a little bit too stupid for my caliber of who I am to deal with at this point. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm out. Like, that's why when I was largely like, I think I'm done with law school, because the next semester, well, that semester ended. It was literally like just a couple of weeks before the semester ended. Semester ended. We went through Christmas and then went into the next semester. And then I was like, you know what? I'm done. I was like, one, the people here are stupid. Like, there were some all right people in the law school, a lot of nasty ones. And then there was also like the administrative staff was just stupid as hell. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. I don't even think I need to diplomatically, sugarcoat that. Every experience I had with them, they were just goofy as hell, and they had their priorities wrong or backwards or half-assed, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done. Like, if this is what the legal world is, I don't want to be involved in that at all. I'd rather go run a news channel on YouTube and leave it at that. And someone said punishing a victim, not a good look. Yeah, that's not a good look. It's like, especially since I didn't go around like making people fearmonger about it. One person asked me about it, and so I told them. It's not like I'm gonna lie to them. It's like there's no reason for me to lie to them. It's like, what is this, law school encouraging people to lie to each other about basic things? It's like I had to go file a police report because someone just tried to have me swatted. It's like, that's the basic thing that happened there. And like, I don't even know what was up with that. But anyways, with that, I hope people aren't messing with you like that while you're having to deal with a Wuhan whirlybird. And I hope that we didn't make you laugh too much. I hope it was just the right amount. Like, not too much, not too little. But still, I thank you so much once again for support. And I thank you for being here with us tonight. And hopefully we're helping you to pass the time while you're having to deal with that whole fever that you probably have. And also all of the other things that I got. Like, the first time I got the Wuhan whirlybird, crazily enough, I don't know what it was. And also to preface this, I've never gotten pink eye before or after this, but I got pink eye in both of my eyes when I got Wuhan whirlybird the first time. I don't even know what was up with that. Matthew can remember that. Like, I literally was like blind for like 2 days because it was that bad. I don't even know what it was. I have no clue what that was at all. But still, thank you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to none other than Santiago Flores, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Santiago, for the $20 support and also being a channel legend. He said, for the Coffee Christmas Fund, and please pick a question from the chat, and thank you.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much for having some very kind words. I got to thank you greatly for enjoying the channel and really getting a lot out of it. I hope that we continue to give a load of info and news to every single one of y'all, including you, Santiago Flores. And I got to thank you for supporting the coffee fund this Christmas because we always need coffee. We're kind of we're having a fun time back here, and hopefully we'll have a really fun Christmas because we are going to be taking off Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So hopefully it'll be a great time of fun and jolliness for the large part. But I still thank you so much once again, and I hope that does address that incredibly well, at least the best I can. And we will make sure to take one from the live chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and this one from the live chat is going to go to, let's see here, Bobo Vasquez. He says, I heard a rumor that Yoon Suk-yeol implemented martial law to gather up South Koreans to fight in Ukraine, and I'm sure that this is far-fetched, but what do you think?
Absolutely far-fetched. He declared martial law to crush the National Assembly. There was no hope of sending South Koreans to Ukraine. There was no hope or inspiration to that at all. That sounds like something that was made up and fabricated. Kind of like how a lot of people who watch the Israelis bomb the Syrians right now and they're blowing up ammo, they're like, oh, all of that could have gone to Ukraine. It's like it would have never made it to Ukraine. Like, that's not even in serious priorities right now. Their country just collapsed and they're making a brand new one out of the ashes. So it's like they're not thinking about giving away all of their weaponry to Ukraine right now. They kind of are in a bat where they need that a little bit more than the Ukrainians do at this point. But anyways, I hope that does address that live chat well. And I thank you once again, Santiago Flores, for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to none other than Eason, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Eason, for that $20 support. He said, nothing like a Russian economy and a Russian army, eighth wonder of the world.
And I gotta agree. It really is. They're crazy how they can do this kind of stuff and just keep doing it. I feel like Russia is a fantasy land at this point. It is something that I can't even imagine. It runs that incompetently. I mean, it runs worse than anything else I've seen so far, except for Syria. Syria ran a lot worse, and also North Korea, and maybe Iran. Really, a lot of people are actually far worse off than the Russians, but the Russians still do a pretty good job of looking like they're terrible at everything. So I got to thank you so much once again for support, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Certify, who puts in a $20 donation. Thank you as well, Certify, for that support. They said, Merry Christmas and Slava Ukraine.
And I gotta say, thank you so much for the support, and Merry Christmas to you as well, and Slava Ukraini. And I gotta thank you so much for wishing us Merry Christmas. I hope all of y'all have a Merry Christmas as well, because the holidays are always a time of joy and fun for everyone. Hopefully, none of y'all are having to go through anything that's incredibly tough or trying during the holidays, like with Wubba, with the Wuhan whirlybird or anything like that, because it's never fun to have holidays ruined. It's just never a fun time for anyone. But I still thank you so much for the support, and I hope that everyone's having a great holiday season out there. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we've got a $20 super chat from none other than Danny B. It's Chef Danny in the house. He said, good evening, Enforcers. Chef Danny here, and sorry I missed most of the stream, and I'll be back and listen to it, but it's been kind of good not hearing much about Israel, and I hope maybe everything is dying down.
And I thank you so much for the support, Danny B, and I would have to agree, it is good hearing things, hearing nothing really about Israel. It looks as though that situation is starting to die down, because the proxy forces are completely cut off from the outside world at this point. They have no way to get supplied or funded by Iran at the moment, so it's pretty much killed off all of their operations against Israel. There's really nothing they can do, and their hands are tied. And as long as the Syrian interim government starts to remain Western aligned, that will remain the case. If they start to move back towards the direction of Iran, possibly due to Israel being hostile to them, well, that prime time opportunity of never hearing about Israel again will pass, and all of y'all we'll keep hearing about them here on this news. But I still thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope you've been enjoying what you've been seeing so far, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the news that we got out here earlier tonight, because it was also pretty solid stuff, at least in my opinion. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to CIA accounts payable, Black Ops accounting. They're in the house. The accountants are here, and they put in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, CIA accounts payable, for paying up. We appreciate it. They said, did someone say CIA? Oh, yes, I did say CIA. I was just going through a little bit of the onboarding process for going to a foreign country. That's all. Nothing classified. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, I gotta say, really quickly, man, can you reread that one really quick?
Did somebody say CIA?
Oh, oh yeah. One second. I'm sorry. I was reading something else in the chat I was going to address. But I thank you so much for the support. And someone did say the CIA, and you're here. And thank you so much for giving us our nice little paycheck. We are not funded or operated by the CIA, by the way. Just have to put that out there as a disclaimer. But I still thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible. Also, really quickly, I want to address some from the chat, from Cami Rubin, who said swatting can kill, and that is true. Should be a federal offense, wasting peacekeeper resources. Well, you know what's actually interesting? This was actually a pretty smart move by the hot dog people, which shows that this was really premeditated and planned out when they did it. No one from America called. It was a Canadian caller. Because once they found out that it was a swatting attempt, they actually told me that they went through the effort of tracing back the phone call, and it turns out that the caller was actually from Ontario in Canada. So there was absolutely no way for them to do anything, because the call came actually from outside the United States, and while that is a crime for an American citizen to do, the caller was Canadian. So there was absolutely nothing that could be done on a legal perspective about the caller. So if they had actually acted on the information the caller had made and swatted me, there was no way for there to be any sort of punishment or any sort of retribution for what was done legally to the caller, because they were actually an international caller. Apparently, no one from America called to do this. Every single one of them was a foreigner from outside of the country, which means that if we had been swatted, if we had been shot, there would have been absolutely no repercussions for the hot dog man's community or anyone involved in it, because every single person who actually called was from outside the United States. So that was a thing that let me know these people are adamant on having us injured or killed if possible, and that it was really about the time where I was like, you know what, it's time to start trying to ramp that up a notch, at least in terms of trying to shut this whole thing down. And I believe that was around the time that we actually sued Hot Dog Man, and then everyone wanted to look at it as bad dojo, everyone else did, that just heard about it from a third person, because yeah, you know, almost getting killed and shot at your law school that you're going to, I mean, that's not really a big deal, but suing someone, whoa, you're crossing the line, buddy. It's like, what a bunch of nonsense that said that. That was the goofiest thing I've ever seen. Like, yeah, you almost got injured and killed, but he has a right to have his community harass you and nearly injure and kill you. And now his community is already targeting someone else that's also in the sphere of war analysis, and he had to make his Twitter private today because of it. Like, these people, like, someone actually needs to bring a light onto this little group of people and see about YouTube maybe removing them from the platform, because it's crazy that they keep doing this to endless amounts of people. I think they've done it to about everyone they've run into at this point, and no one's done anything about it yet. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one here goes to Sub the Gator, who puts in a 10. Thank you very much, Gator, for that support. They said, do you think the North Koreans are killing Russians out of pride because they think they are superior, as they have always been told? Also, to stop Russians from planting flags in Ukraine. Send Mike Norvell.
I don't know who Mike Norvell is. I
don't either.
I'm going to have to pull that up. Mike Norvell. A football coach. Do it, coach, do it. I don't know who Mike Norvell is.
Coach. Hunt the ball, coach. We'll make it. It's going to be a football game.
Man, we'll do it, damn it. We'll get that damn ball to the damn touchdown zone, boy. Damn. Or something like
I
that.
think we ought to punt it. And you know what? While you're punting it, I'm going to do this side trade over here with this insider knowledge. Said one football coach.
They told me Bitcoin was going through the roof. Well, damn, I better be riding it up through the damn ceiling. Shit. Or something like that. It's like, yeah, go, coach. You can do it. You can insider trade.
I may not know what a Bitcoin is, but I want a bit of that coin.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, I might be a damn good football coach getting folks down on that Hail Mary, but I'll tell you what I'm even better at, getting that damn insider train across the touchdown line. Man, I'll tell you what, man, damn impressive right there. Man, Alabama, what a wonderful place. But beyond that, I will say to address your comment there, that I don't think the North Koreans did it for that reason. Yes, they are an ethno-state, and yes, they do instill racism as kind of like a normal thing in the North Korean psyche. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but they are wildly racist in North Korea, insanely. It is illegal to intermarry across different races, if they even exist in North Korea, which it's very rare and few and far in between when they do, and generally you're not allowed, even if you run into them, to marry them. You also were told that pretty much every other race is inferior. That is something that they actually do teach in North Korea. North Korea is pure, keep the bloodline pure. The people in North Korea are the best. We are superior to everyone. It is quite literally like Nazi Germany on roids up in there with what they think as far as the ethnicity of their nation. It's insane. And so that is something that may play into it a little bit, but the reality of the fact is that they probably ended up shooting the Russians not for that reason. It probably was quite literally for the fact that they kind of were, not really able to discern in between Russians and Ukrainians. It's not just because, everyone involved in that scenario is white. It's really for the fact that Ukrainians and Russians wear very similar camouflage, and if they're not wearing armbands, they pretty much look the same. Like, they are, white Europeans, and then they're also wearing very similar camouflage. So they may as well look like each other. So the North Koreans may have been shattered because they got beaten back by the Ukrainians the other day, and they were just, pretty much on a hair's end, waiting for anyone to come around the corner. They saw a Russian group come rolling around the corner, thought it was the Ukrainians conducting a counterattack, and just laid them down. That may have been what happened, and I think that probably is the case. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I know, because that's generally how North Korea works on that side of things, at least from what people have told us. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Chef Danny B once again, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Danny, for the second support of the night. He said, "Oh, enforcers, I took my kids to the holiday train ride down in Royal Gorge, and my daughter absolutely loved it. And it was such a beautiful train, and y'all should definitely take that trip."
Hey, really nice to hear. I actually want to take that train ride someday. It's in Canyon City down here, and it is right here, the Royal Gorge Route Railroad, which is a scenic railroad that travels through the Royal Gorge, which is a really cool place. Is that a Shay? Wow, that is a Shay. That is really cool. That's a piston-driven steam engine, by the way, Matthew, and runs kind of like a car.
That's fascinating. Yeah, like a car. Wow.
Let me go see if I can find a video of one running, because they are really cool to watch, man. Like, they got a whole intricate gearing system and everything. Shay locomotive. Let's see here. Can I find one?
I don't think it exactly doesn't look like a Ferrari or a Lambo, but I guess it could be like a car, maybe like a. Oh, whoa! What was that, Jack?
So check this out. This is a Shay. They don't move fast, but you can actually see all the exposed pistons on the side of the locomotive here running, and as they do, they spin a crankshaft, which is connected to all of the wheels, and actually move it forward a lot like a car.
Fascinating.
They were used a lot in the logging industry because these things were, of course, torque beasts. And generally, logging railroads don't operate at high speeds. They really just care about torque and hauling power up steep grades. Really, really cool kind of mechanical system. But they have one right over there. Don't know what model that is, though, but still really cool that they even have one at all. But beyond that, these are the kind of scenes that you see in the Royal Gorge. It's a beautiful place. They even have a gorgeous F7 that pulls the actual train through the gorge. The inside is immaculate. Like, it's a really, really cool kind of a trip to take. I would love to go on it, and it's great to hear that y'all did and had a blast, because me personally, I love this kind of stuff. I think it's really, really cool, really neat. It's just a cool experience, even if you're not into the history side of things or really big into trains. It's just a fun thing to do. And also, I like the fact that they kind of painted everything up in that Rio and let's see, it was the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad kind of a paint scheme that the trains actually had when operating on this line. But man, I would love to do this. It would be so cool. Also, it appears that at some point, this station was owned by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, which I never knew. Also, there's the Shea up close. This is the other side of it, and it looks like it's not maintained. But anyways, moving on from that, another railroad that I've wanted to ride inside of Colorado, because there are several, is the Durango and Silverton Railroad, which runs from Durango to Silverton. And let me see if I can show y'all that one. This one is so cool. It's a narrow gauge railroad that uses nothing but nowadays oil-powered steam locomotives. They actually retired their coal-fired steam locomotives a while ago due to, I believe, one of the last coal mines in the area closing down, and it was now uneconomical to run them. So they converted the last coal burner to an oil burner. But beyond that, it is narrow gauge railroading pretty much from the 1920s and 1910s, which is really, really cool. The route is super scenic, the entire length, and I've wanted to go up here and see this one as well because the scenery is beautiful, and not only that, it's always fun to ride a train. You don't have to drive, so you're not having to focus on the road. You actually get to look at the surroundings, which is a wonderful and fun thing to do. So I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and we will definitely have to get out there one day and really take like a railroading tour. Actually, Matthew probably wouldn't. He got turned off of trains completely after Amtrak, but I'm going to take a railroading tour one day because I thought Amtrak wasn't that bad. Like, it's not great, like it's not like opulence, but you know, airline flying isn't either. But you know, I'll be honest with you, Matthew, I'm gonna have a hot take here. Modern transportation has absolutely killed what it used to be. Like, it's not at all what it used to be. Back in the day, everything used to be really nice and over the top, and it was generally affordable. And nowadays, it is incredibly cramped, incredibly basic, overly corporatized, and absolutely horrendous in the conditions. Like, flying on an airplane is rough. Riding on a train is rough. Like, it used to just be better in every single metric in every single way back in the day. I don't know why in the world that it's like that, because it doesn't cost a lot of money to make things look nicer. You know, like, you just build them to look nicer and then you upkeep it just a little bit extra, you know, maybe sacrifice a little bit of the profits, you know, and then you can make it a pretty nice thing. But they don't do that. I don't know why. But anyways,
Hot take: America has the worst public transportation in the world. Hot take. But yet we're the biggest economy in the world, but yet we have the worst public transportation.
I'm going to tell you, I think it is time to make public transport great again. Like, no one's doing it. Everyone talks about it. It's time to do it. I think there has to be an actual concerted effort to try and push that forward, because it annoys the hell out of me how everything in America, public transportation wise, just isn't nice. Like, back in the day, there used to be regulation of the airlines, and the seats used to be nice and padded, the food was good, the experience was great. They got rid of that. Now the airlines are dog shit, the seats are uncomfortable. They're like, it's a horrendous thing to fly. Like the only thing that makes flying better than riding on a train is that you're not on there as long. Like, that's the only thing that makes flying better. Like, the conditions on a plane are, I would say, worse than actually being on a train, in my opinion. It's just the fact that you're only on there for a few short hours that makes it more palatable. Like, it's like I only have to suffer for a few short hours before I get off this thing. That's what makes airlines okay. Like, just acceptable. It's not great, it's just acceptable. And then with the railroads are like at the same maintenance condition as the airlines. Like, I personally did not really see that much of a difference in Amtrak's cleaning standards versus an airline's. The only difference is that you really paid attention to how little it was actually cleaned because you were in the train for hours, way more than you would be in a plane.
They need to get cleaning on Amtrak. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not just saying this to be picky. Amtrak was nasty. Like, those trains were nasty. I don't care what anybody says. I was on the thing. I saw how they were being maintained. They need to get with it, like with simply cleaning the cars that they have appropriately. Like, it would be nice to upgrade the cars, but at least clean the ones you've got. Because I was not happy with that at all. Like, it felt very unclean.
Yeah, it was all right, but it was unclean. And also, the cars had not been refurbished in, like, what was it? I think ours was literally the only one that was not freshly refurbished, which I think is why we kind of were like, this is a little, dingy a little bit. Because all the other cars had just been refurbished. They literally refurbished the entire Superliner fleet recently, except for our car, because it was a transition sleeper, meaning that the crew slept in it, so they didn't upgrade that one. And so we were sleeping in old cars. And I was like, that's not right. Like, why in the world did we get done like that? That was terrible. But I would think that we do need, also, we weren't done like that, like, like as a screw you kind of a thing. We were done that way because this very nice guy who was in the LA station tried to get our our rooms close to each other, so he ended up putting us in the transition sleeper with the other room. So then all of our rooms were transition sleeper rooms and not modern. So, you know, that was how that works. But anyways, moving on from that, though, we need to see public transportation massively improve in this country. We either need government regulation to make public transportation more palatable and enjoyable for the American traveler, or we need to be able to see that private companies come forward to be able to make it better, or the U.S. government needs to step forward and start improving the public transportation that it provides, like Amtrak. Amtrak needs a massive amount of improvement. Amtrak could be as amazing as Deutsche Bahn in Germany, which has amazing public transport. Have y'all ever seen the inside of an ICE high-speed train? Let's see, high-speed train interior. Let me go show y'all that. Have y'all ever seen it? Like, I know the Germans have, but has anyone else around the world seen this? Look at this. That is so nice.
That is nice. Like, seriously, so that's clean looking. Also, it looks modern. Like, that really looks like what we should have too.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, that's just clean. It's nice. It's sleek. Like, I'll show you this, the Acela interior, just to give you all a comparison of the United States. This is what the inside of the Acelas look like in America, which is very similar, but you generally do not see that represented across the entirety of the U.S. fleet. Like, let me see if I can get you all an AM fleet interior. So this is what your normal interior of an Amtrak passenger car looks like in coach. That's what it looks like. The seats are huge, but I don't know what it is. It doesn't hold up well over time. I think it's the color scheme that they go for that really starts to accentuate the grime after a while, and they also don't really clean them that well, so the grime really starts to build up. Like, no disrespect to anyone who works in Amtrak. Like, you know, it's a good premise. It's just that it's not executed incredibly well, even in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of the railroads, and I think that Amtrak needs to go a long way. Not that I'm saying at this point, like, we just need to shut Amtrak down and see it burn in hell. Like, I'm not that kind of a person. I believe that we should just work on improving it and making it far better. But Amtrak certainly does have a good bit of shortcomings with this sort of a thing. Let me see if I can show y'all a Superliner, like interior, well, roomette. Let me show you all that. So this is what the roomettes look like. This is a fairly good picture. It's like this is the exact kind of chair we were sitting in, and these are the older ones. They refurbished them now to where they look better. I'm trying to see if I can find all that. Here's what the new ones look like here. But just to be entirely honest with y'all, like, that just doesn't cut it. Like, the old curtains, the curtains are nasty looking. Then it's not really made, like, the backboards really aren't clean. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be improved. It could be better, but it takes actual work and time and elbow grease and sweat, which is what people have to dedicate to doing to make things better. Like, you can't just give up on it. You can't exit. You've got to improve it. You've got to find ways to make it work. And also another thing that's ridiculous. Do y'all know how many miles of tofu dreg construction that the Chinese have built to get their own high-speed rail system? Let me go see the high-speed rail map in China. Let me go show you that really quickly. High-speed rail in China. Let me go get the map. But here y'all go, just to show y'all some of their high-speed rail. Like, China is a hellhole. No doubt, but I think it's a point that we have to make that nowadays we are in a competition with countries like China for prestige purposes to say that we are better than them in every way we can be, to show that democracy and liberty-minded nations can beat out against communist authoritarian states like this. They have 29,000 miles of high-speed rail in their country. They beat out everyone in the world right now for high-speed rail by the technical number. But generally, their high-speed rail is
also.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think we're lagging. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're lagging. I'll shut down the control room. But go ahead.
Oh, the control room was back up. That's what was doing it?
I think so.
Interesting. So that's definitely doing it. That's weird. But I was about to say, someone said in the live chat here, they said, was the toilet under the seat in the Amtrak?
No.
That was not on our Amtrak. We did not have that. It was actually like normal bathrooms down the hall and stuff like that. But there are Amtraks. I think it's the I can't remember, what's it called? The something liner?
The Viewliners.
What's it called?
It's the
the Viewliners have the toilets in the like cars and like in the rooms and stuff like that, which, I was not wild about that idea at all. But the bathrooms down the hall were nasty too. Like, there was not much cleaning going on with those. I just don't like it, man. I just don't like it. Like, it's weird that every other country on the planet has clean trains except for the U.S. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Let me see if I can show you all the map of high-speed rail that China has. Because if they can do this tofu drag construction nonsense, like look at this. This is what they had in 2008 right here. This is the high-speed rail networks they had, which were just these isolated corridors in populated areas. And now in 2017, which I believe was one of the last high-speed rail projects that they had, pretty much the entire country, even the unpopulated areas, had high-speed rail. Like now, that is something that I do have to say. The Chinese aren't lying on this because there is proof the high-speed rail does work out there, and it's a nationalized railroad system, a lot like Amtrak kind of is. We can make it work here. If China can do it, we, without a doubt, can do it, and do it far better than they can. And that's something that annoys me. We should have, at this point in the United States, we should start working towards it, 2 massive high-speed rail corridors spanning the entirety of the West Coast and the East Coast, and then have hubs that these high-speed rail connections link to at major international airports that then transit the Midwestern areas where there is not enough population density to support massive routes, and then keep Amtrak's legacy routes in those areas pretty much is almost like a touristy sort of a thing, and really soup them up to be incredibly nice and kind of more of an experience than an actual mode of transportation. But on the West Coast and East Coast, it would actually be, die-hard, real utilitarian transportation. Very nice, very clean, very modern, and also very affordable at the same time. I think that's what we should be working towards at this point, and also improving the interstate and airport systems simultaneously, and not abandoning the other forms of transportation to really just promote a single one. Like, America has enough money and it has enough of an ability to be able to do all 3 of those things incredibly well, and I don't know why we just simply go with the interstates as the prime mover of this republic when we could have so many different diversified options that would really fit the traveling citizen far better than just the interstates alone. That's entirely my belief, and I don't know, maybe some people believe in that or not, but I'm very vehement on the United States should have a modernized and very effective and well fleshed out public transportation system, because nowadays that is a matter of national prestige, if anything, and we should be able to say that the United States has some of the forefront and leading forms of public transportation worldwide, and that the United States government, the federal government, and the state governments are able to put forward enough public facilities for their citizens to show that the citizens are, of course, first and foremost in the government's mindset. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, someone said a waste of money. Here's my thing. I think that is the prevailing view on things like public transportation in the United States. People say it's a waste of money. But the thing is, though, at the same time, Americans will complain about the quality of life not being great. Like, for example, things not being upkept properly and new innovation not happening for the public works. And if we would simply upgrade things like that and modernize like Europe's done, also like, for example, China has done as well, like those countries have problems, but they have modernized their public transit. And also generally they do have good common spaces for people to go and meet in if they want to, and simply go enjoy nice parks and things like that. America does not seem to be up on that at all. Like, it seems like something that's really fallen on the back burner. And if they would keep up with it and try to modernize, I think they'd realize that America would have a much better quality of life for people all the way around, because the attention to the details is what matters when it comes to things like that. But anyways, we are now moving on to our next super chat, which goes to NeatSock12, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, NeatSock, for that support. They said, "Hello, Enforcers. I appreciate the work y'all do and enjoy watching. And I'm curious, do you have any new thoughts on the drones in the United States? And I find it very odd that we let them fly around but don't take them down."
I thank you for the support, NeedSock12. We actually largely moved on from that because it doesn't seem that there will ever be answers to that ever. And Twitter is now a cesspit of fake videos about that stuff these days, really just trying to continue the hype train. Let me see if I can just find one really quickly for y'all, just scrolling around. Yeah, this one right here. This one's great. Just in. 2 drones spotted being followed by a helicopter in Bradenton, Florida. And this is it. Like, it's like, I don't even know what that is. It's like, what, it doesn't even really matter at this point. I don't even know. Because one thing that's clear, they're not blowing anything up. And, it generally seems that they haven't caused any extreme damage at this point. So, I don't know. Maybe the government has a point. Maybe it's just nothing. but, you know, still at the same time, I don't really have that much of a take. If anything, it's probably radiation sniffers, possibly, but that's about the best guess I can come up with at this point, because beyond this, the whole drone thing has exited reason at this point. There's really no sense to any of it. Like, even what's happening, there's not really a lot of sense to it. It's just nonsensical. So I largely just kind of tuned it out and just moved on at this point. I was like, oh, well, I guess we'll never figure out what that actually is. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And I thank you so much for the support and enjoying what we're doing here on this channel, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And also, Walter A. Lakota, you are really hitting on one of the big things that makes Amtrak somewhat questionable, but there are so much more. That's like, honestly, the tip of the iceberg, really, Walter, in my opinion, of what's wrong. There's so many things that are wrong. Back in the day, it was law. Like, back in the day, the companies that are the freight railroads now actually ran the passenger services as like a prestige thing for their companies. They were like, look at our companies, they're so glorious and magnificent, we're going to make our services ultra luxurious in most instances, to really show off how good our railroad company is versus the other competitors, and why, as businessmen, you should do business with Union Pacific or New York Central, or down here in the South it would have been Louisville and Nashville or Southern, because we're the top dogs. Like, look how good our passenger rail service is. Obviously, we're going to take care of your freight needs and concerns incredibly well. And, like, that was what they did back in the day. And the Congress required that these people ran this form of transportation. And also, another thing that really helped out the railroads a lot, especially when running passenger services, is that the U.S. Mail actually contracted out a lot of their mail service to the railroads. So express mail services were carried along with express passenger services, which heavily subsidized the maintenance and running of these passenger train services, which largely would be unprofitable on passengers alone, but they were carrying mail. And it's like, if we could do something like that now, like, if you could make high-speed rail a thing again in this country, because that's a way that you could really, really start to say, why in the world should the post office be transporting stuff by truck or aircraft? Let them transport it by train over set distances. You would be able 100% to make passenger rail viable again, because a lot of the running costs would be subsidized with the U.S. Postal Service contracts for shipping boxes and letters and such things like that. And there is, and you know, a lot of people used to say back in the day, at the turn of the millennium, when I was growing up, oh, the post office is dead. And everyone knows the post office isn't going to die now, because people are shipping all kinds of stuff through the post office still, and it's alive and well and will never die. And so it's like, you know, just move some of the contracts, you know, some of the longer distance but not extreme long distance contracts from airlines back to the passenger rail services, and you go 100% get the freight companies back in line with running passenger rail services. They would prioritize it because by act of Congress they have to, and also on top of that, they would have to maintain the rails again. Largely, it kind of it returns things back to the way they were. Like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We really just have to get the rail services back to what they once were. The private companies could run them. They ran them in the past, and they did totally fine doing it. Like, Amtrak could actually die. You know, most of its stuff could be inherited by private rail companies that ran this stuff properly, but it would pretty much live on in a much better way. Like, I'm not at all like 100% the government has to do this or 100% the private companies have to do this. I am for whatever will get the best result for the citizenry. And if that means the private companies have to do it, then they'll do it. If it means that the government has to do it, the government will do it. But I would 100% believe that if we could find some way to just at least make whoever is doing this break even on their contracts, I think we could really on their services, I think we can 100% get people behind doing this in the private sector, because there would be no loss or no gain, really. It's just doing it because they have to do it, or we could actually get them to maybe try and eke out a little bit of cash on top of it, and then it would make it a reason for them to run the services. And also, another thing that people don't talk about is that, you know, people are always like, oh, it's a waste of money. Why should the government waste money when they could just, you know, throw it away, you know, or something like it's like, I don't know what the arguments are these days, but back in the day, the government actually paid these companies to build the railroads, because back in the day, the United States knew how important railroads were going to be to this nation's future. This country wasn't built on cars, it was built on the railroad. And so the government will actually subsidize a lot of these companies building the railroads they build. That's why America has the most miles of railroads still anywhere in the world, is because the government went in and poured money out the kazoozle to subsidize the construction of rail. There was never a time in early American history where rails were built without some sort of government funding. Like, they were always built with government funding. And so if we could sit there and say, hey, private company, we're going to give you mail contracts to run these passenger mail services with, and also, by the way, we are going to be subsidizing y'all to construct the high-speed rail. Like, if we did that, I think we'd actually return the natural ecosystem of the railroads back to this country, and it would run fine. Like, I think it would run perfectly. Maybe not, we'd have to see. And if it didn't work, then we'd have to find another way to get this to, you know, kind of work. If the government has to do it, then it has to do it at this point. But I think we would 100% make public transport on the rails, in the skies, and really on the interstate even, a much more tolerable and enjoyable thing. And also, I saw someone say, oh, well, you know, like, I don't want to be around like a druggie. Yeah, I get that. Like, that's like honestly like one of the big things. Like, I'm not going to lie, that's like one of the big things about anyone doing anything in the public anymore in America, is that no one controls the druggies. I just think that generally involves you know, like, some people may not like this, stricter policing in that kind of a scenario where you just see like a tweaker, like maybe have the cops come up and be like, hey, are you okay? You know, or something like that. Or, you know, just have a civil initiative where people just call wellness checks on these people, be like, that guy is tweaking over there. The cops might need to go check on him. And, you know, and then the cops go over there and check on him. And the guy tells him that there's people on the walls and pulls out some scissors and, you know, tries to attack the cops, and he's arrested and he goes to jail. And it's like, well, the problem solved itself. You know, like, or, you know, maybe start opening up more psychiatric clinics or psychiatric hospitals specifically, so that way when that happens, these people can go to the psychiatric hospital and hopefully find help, or in the worst case scenario, they're at least out of the public and not causing a nuisance and making people hide in fear because they're scared that tweaker is going to stab them to death. You know, like, either way, like, regardless whether it turns out incredibly well or incredibly, well, not incredibly bad, but not exactly ideal behind the scenes, at least the public situation is being dealt with at that point, and then we can try and figure out how to deal with it and improve the psychiatric system beyond that point if you wanted to do it that way, or at least just get them out of the way. But you know, like, the answers are very simple. It doesn't take an expert, and I think that's the way we would make things a lot better in this country. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also I was asking the chat here. I was wondering whatever happened to that Hyperloop train thing that Elon was proposing for the U.S. That kind of just like went away. But I did see here that apparently Musk has moved on from the Hyperloop in the United States, and now he's proposing a $20 billion undersea Hyperloop from New York to London. So interesting. I think we should probably focus here in America first instead of doing the intercontinental type deal like that. Probably focus here and then maybe move on to that. And also, that doesn't really sound practical, honestly, like the New York to London. That is too much to actually like tunnel through. That's kind of crazy. And I think it would cost a lot more than $20 billion as well. Like, I have a feeling it'd be much over budget if it was to happen. So I don't know, but I guess he gave up on the Hyperloop here domestically.
Well, it failed. I mean, like they tried to get someone to make a usable Hyperloop system. You remember that, Matthew? Like, the competitions, they put the thing in the tube and see if it worked, and none of them worked. All of it failed. And what was actually crazy is that there is a conspiracy theory. I'm actually a believer in this conspiracy theory, actually. This is one of the few I'll believe. Elon did that to kill the California high-speed rail project, so that way there wouldn't be a competitor to the roads, so that way Tesla cars would sell better. Like, I think that was entirely the idea behind it, because, you know, California people, public transportation minded. Like, I will say that about Californians. You'll seem to be a lot more public transportation minded than we are here in the Southeast. He saw that the California high-speed rail project was starting to finally get off the ground and take up some speed. So he was like, oh, screw, you know, California high-speed, conventional high-speed rail. Let's do this stupid, weird, nonsensical juju science, like, Hyperloop thing, which will be even better. Let's just kill that and try this. And then that failed, and then he pretty much shot, you know, the high-speed rail project in the foot and slowed it down for a bit. And then he's like, oh, that's terrible. Anyways, let's all get Teslas now. Like, that's one I would actually believe, but that, because that would seem to be within his business mindset. Because when you think about it, Matthew, it's like, why in the world would he be trying to fund and create a competition to road vehicles, which he's heavily invested in selling? Like, that would make no sense at all. Like, let's get people in Hyperloops when I'm also trying to sell cars. It's like, that doesn't even make any sense.
And also, it seems like the cost of building a Hyperloop would be so monumental that it would take a very long time to get a return on your investment by simply shuttling people back and forth to wherever the Hyperloop leads to. It seems like it would be very unprofitable.
Yeah, it would not be profitable. Also, think about the speeds that thing would be traveling at, the friction, the wear on those tubes that would be carrying the hyperloops. Like the heat from it would start warping everything pretty easily after a couple of travels. It was completely infeasible and impossible from the start. Like, and he knew that, and that's why I think, like, I'm actually a believer in that conspiracy theory because I think it's a very practical one. He did that to kill the California high-speed rail project, which actually pretty much died, and it's kind of like pretty much in rigor mortis at this point, although they're still technically trying to work on it. He killed it so that way Teslas would be the only thing out there. Like if cars are still the only thing out there, and at that point he killed off the competition of the railroads, and it's still a completely car-centric based sort of an economy on transportation, and Teslas would be a far easier thing to thrive in that sort of an environment.
Yeah, that's true. I will say this though, like I see some people in the live chat. Every time we bring up Elon, it's like a bashing session. I don't have anything personally against the guy. Like he has, like obviously really successful companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and things like that. And me personally, I don't have a problem with him personally. He's just a very ambitious person that honestly kind of goes overboard sometimes when it comes to his ideas. But I guess you have to have big ideas and then sort of like dwindle them down to more realistic ones to actually get stuff done. But he's done some very good things for the country when it comes to the rockets and things like that. Now, on foreign policy, like in my opinion, his foreign policy ideas are not that great. Most of them are really kind of misinformed. Trying to say that as respectfully as possible, but I don't agree with most of those. But on everything else, though, in his lane of like science and technology, he's on point. But it's just always a bashing session when we bring up Elon.
Yeah, I don't have anything against Elon. Like that's one thing I would say though. Like I feel like that was a pretty see-through thing that he did, especially in hindsight, and I'm not really a big fan of that. But beyond that, he does good in his lane. However, I will say that there are many things. Here's what I'll say. This is my take. Elon is great in his zone. Like he does great in his realm. Like with Tesla cars, very good salesman of Tesla cars. I don't think anyone can disagree. SpaceX does incredible things with SpaceX. Of course, he's not the guy designing these rockets or anything. He's not like the boy genius who he's not Werner von Braun or anything like that. But he does a great job being the visionary of SpaceX and getting this team together to make that possible. It's a pride and prestige point of the United States that SpaceX has turned into. However, that does not mean that he is a genius on everything, and he is starting to really make himself like that, kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who acts like he's also a genius on everything. Elon is starting to get into that direction where he says things where I'm like, that is just a goofy take. Like he said recently on Twitter, the F-35 is obsolete. And it's completely pointless to make it, and the people in the American government are so stupid for buying more F-35s. And I'm like, what, do you not even know what the real air combat world looks like right now? It's like the F-35 is the best aircraft out there, period. There's no competitor at this point. The F-22 doesn't even come close. The F-35 is the jack of all trades, master of every. It's like this is the best aircraft ever made at this point in history yet. It is goofy to say that that's pointless. Because he's saying drones controlled with AI are the future. It's also like, didn't he say that AI is also dangerous as well? And now he wants AI controlled drones airstriking people in the Middle East. It's like, doesn't that sound like completely counterintuitive of what he's already said? Like I will say he does.
I'm not on the AI thing. I'm really not sure what's going on with that, because you do know about the public spat between Elon and Sam Altman, right? The guy who runs OpenAI. Yeah, it's a really huge spat going on about that, about something. I don't know the whole full story, but apparently OpenAI was supposed to be a nonprofit, and Elon's alleging that they're moving to full profit, and that's not what he wanted for the company. So I think Elon was actually a founder, or one of the founders of OpenAI, and then he stepped away at some point, and then he started XAI, which is the Twitter-based AI program called Grok. That's now a competitor to OpenAI. So I'm not sure if it's maybe just a conflict of interest. Maybe, for example, they're competing, so obviously they want to take each other down, I think. Or maybe he actually has a point. I'm not really sure.
I don't know. I would personally say though, it's like just because someone can say just because someone's good at something, like y'all know I'm good at analyzing stuff and really recognizing a pattern, that does not mean that I'm going to be great at everything. Like I have opinions, but it doesn't mean I'm an expert. I'm not an expert on public transport. Like I have very, very strong opinions on that, but they're opinions. They're not facts, and I'm not an expert in that kind of a field. And I'm 100% totally fine with people going, well, you're not really a qualified expert, and so we shouldn't follow what you're saying to a T, and you shouldn't act like an authority figure in it. And I would agree. But on other stuff, though, like everything. It's like you can't be an expert on everything. Like, I hope we don't sound like that here on our channel. I try and give like a base knowledge of everything, you know, take it with a grain of salt though, like we always say. But I just don't like it when like folks like Elon, you know, get a little bit too much wind in their sails, because everyone does recognize that they are pretty good at what they do in specific categories. But then they take that to mean that they're going to accept and love everything that he says in every category. It's like, that's just not the case. And that's what I think is kind of the issue at this point, because it's like, what is wrong with the F-35? It's piloted by a man. What aircraft out there in the world right now isn't? Like, what are we competing against at this point? It's not like China has a fleet of, you know, 6th generation fighter aircraft that are controlled by AI as drones. It's like, that doesn't exist. So why in the world does the F-35 suck compared to this fictitious plane that you came up with in your mind that doesn't exist out there? It's like, anyways, it's like the F-35 is good even if it was if it has a human pilot, because no one can even see the thing on radar in an air-to-air roll, or a seed roll for that matter. It's like, they can't see it. It's like, what is so bad about the F-35? I don't get it. Like, it makes no sense at all that he would say that. And it's like, what does he have, like a friend in the defense contracting industry that's going to try and usurp the U.S. Air Forces, well, really the U.S. Department of Defense's contract for the F-35s, and bring up a competitor that may or may not be as good, may or may not be questionable? I mean, there's been loads of experimental projects back in the day. Like, the Navy said, oh, we're going to get rid of all conventional ships, we're going to replace them with Zumwalts and give them railguns. And the Zumwalts failed. It's like, just because you can, like, the U.S. is very bold and audacious, and I respect the bold and audacious spirit. It's what makes America an amazing republic. But still, just because we were bold and audacious, we can't start throwing reality to the wind and be like, the F-35 sucks. We need to create an aircraft that can pull 90 Gs and fire 90 missiles, and it's completely operated by Skynet. It's like, you can't do that. It's not even practical yet. It's like, that's why we still have pilots, because, you know, yes, technology is making leaps and bounds, but you still want to go with something tried and true that's going to be exceptionally good. At least that would be my opinion on the F-35, because who the hell says it's doing bad? I mean, how bad is it done? It's the best thing made yet? Like, it truly is best thing since sliced bread. And like, it's annoying to me to see that he's like coming out with takes on that, and also his foreign policy takes are pretty silly as well, because like I listen to him and I'm like, what are the points? Like, I don't know what the points are. Like, it's like, he's not an expert in this category, and he can't really explain either why the points are what they are. Like, he can't explain, well, you know, like I don't know what it is, like, with kind of like the whole, like, let's give Russia, like, a fair shot kind of a thing. This is like, they're openly our rival, and you don't give rivals a shot, you put them in the ground. Like, that's what you do. You put them in as much of a disadvantage as possible. And I actually saw another person, just before we came on stream, that put out a video saying that NATO expansion is a lie. And I don't know what the hell that person's thinking, because it's like, that is entirely a lie, what that person is saying. NATO expansion is real, and it's good. It's our sphere of influence. What is wrong with the United States and the Western world saying we are expanding our sphere and that is a good thing? What, are we like scared of saying, yes, we're liberating people from poverty and dictatorships and we're bringing them into the Western world where you actually have individual liberties and freedoms and that your government isn't trampling on them every single step of the day? It's like, is that a bad thing to say? Like, I don't think it is. It's like, why in the world we should be acting like, well, you know, maybe we ought to bend a knee and listen to these authoritarian dictatorships that want this nation brought to its knees. We should give them a fair say. It's like, no, we shouldn't. It's like, we should not be giving the Chinese or the Russians a fair say on a governmental level on what the U.S. does as its affairs or what our interests are. That is not at all their place. The United States has been able to look out for our own interests as citizens of the Republic for 250 years, and we will continue to look after our own interests for the next 250 years, far better than the Russians or the Chinese could ever imagine. The Russians and the Chinese, like they've always been, are just dust in the wind. The Chinese will collapse at some point, as they always have historically done, and the Russian Federation will always remain the backwards, unimportant, but always wanting to be important country that they have been since the collapse of the Byzantine Empire. That's what they will always be. That's what the Chinese will always be. And the United States will always be over here, going through a little bit of tumult, like we always do, but still absolutely being the champion of the Western world that we are, along with every single country that is very similar to us. That's what I think. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Beyond that, though, going through all that, want to say I don't have a problem with Elon. Elon has his quirks and he is who he is. And he's certainly a visionary in his specific niche field, which is a very important one. But that doesn't mean that he's a master of everything and a genius on every single topic. That would be my opinion. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
So get this, folks. I just saw this right now. Russia claims has developed a cancer vaccine and will distribute it free of charge to the people.
What?
Yeah, seriously.
No way. And that will never happen because they have not found that.
Yeah, and also, I don't know, I think this might be a stock image or something like that, but it's literally a vial that has cancer vaccine written on the side of it.
Yeah, that's a stock picture for sure, man.
Yeah, I think it is a stock picture, by the way, because I'm like, that is so goofy looking, but I'm sure Russia will probably do something like that, literally make it that obvious. But, a cancer vaccine, that is just crazy to me. Like, it sounds like total bogus to me, at least.
Oh, it is totally bogus. There is no such thing as a cancer vaccine. Like, what, you're going to stop your cells from multiplying incorrectly with a vaccine? How does a vaccine do that?
I don't think you can catch cancer. Like, it's not like a virus or something. Like, you just walk around and it's like, oh, dang, I ran into some cancer today. I caught some of that. It's like, I don't think it works like that. I think you have to just, get it or have it.
No, well, cancer is when your cells multiply incorrectly due to some sort of some sort of a flaw in your DNA within that specific cell, and then it starts to rapidly multiply those cells, which is, of course, dangerous and can kill people, and it does kill people all the time. That's what cancer is. So it's like, is this vaccine supposed to mend your DNA? Like, what is it doing? Like, that's snake oil right there. That's not even real. Because like,
you think that they think it'll give you cancer? Like, when they say cancer vaccine, it's not protecting you from it; it's giving it to you.
Maybe, I don't know, because I don't even know how the hell you would have a vaccine for cancer.
Yeah, I don't get it either, because I thought that they typically worked by telling your body what to look for and what to destroy if the virus ever shows up. So, I'm not really sure what the hell a cancer vaccine would even look like.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little interesting. I think that's probably BS right there. Because it's like, you can't stop cancer from forming. The thing is that people are trying to figure out how to stop it from growing to the point of killing someone once it starts to happen. Like, that's all you can do with cancer. You can never stop it from happening. Because at some point in your life, like, here's actually the dark reality of eternal life. If we were able to find some way of getting mortality, beyond, making sure that you could just expand your lifetime indefinitely, you will eventually get cancer and die. At some point, some DNA and some of your cells is going to end up becoming broken or damaged in some way. And when that cell multiplies, it will not multiply correctly because the DNA is incomplete or damaged, and that's when cancer begins. That's how it always begins. That's why exposure to radiation causes cancer, because the little bolts of the neutrons that fly through you from radiation will actually sometimes pierce your DNA and damage it or completely destroy it in some instances. And when that cell multiplies, it multiplies incorrectly, which is when cancer starts to form. That's why exposure to radiation in high amounts will cause cancer, because enough of these cells were damaged severely enough that when they multiply incorrectly in large enough numbers to start creating a small tumor. And then those cells will multiply again and they continue to create a cancerous growth. And that's what cancer is. It's not just from radiation alone. There are loads of different ways that you can get cancer, but it's generally because something has damaged or completely destroyed your DNA within a specific cell, and then it multiplies incorrectly. So there's no way to vaccinate against that, because you're pretty much saying we've now created your DNA is invincible, like it cannot be destroyed. Something hits it, it literally just bounces off. Like, that cannot happen. So you just generally have to find a cure to cancer. That's why they say there's a cure to cancer, because you have to find a way that when cancer pops up, you're able to destroy it effectively with 100%, well, not really 100%, but generally above 90% or well above 90%, more so efficiency. That's really what we're looking for. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least on my limited understanding of how cancer works. I'm sure many people who may be watching right now, who may actually have cancer, will probably know a lot more about it because they live with it every day and they probably heard about it a lot every day. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to S. Pedro, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, S. Pedro, for that support. He said, fun fact, Rio Rico, Mexico was ceded to Mexico from U.S. after a river change course, making most 55-year-plus people U.S. citizens and see the Horcon Tract Boundary Treaty of 1970.
Interesting. Let's see. How do you spell that, Horcon Treaty?
Horcon Tract.
Let's see. The Horcon Tract Treaty. Hang on here. I want to find this. Horcon Tract. The Boundary Treaty of 1970. So let's see here. Is a treaty between the United States and Mexico that settled all outstanding boundary disputes and uncertainties related to the Rio Grande, Rio Bravo del Norte, which stands for Rio Bravo of the North border between them. That's the Spanish name, by the way, of the Rio Grande. But anyways, let's see. Remaining after the Chamazal settlement involved the location of the boundary in the area. The river channel was relocated to approximate conditions existing prior to the dispute that arose from changes in the course of the river in 1907. The International Boundary and Water Commission was charged with its implementation. One of those interesting government bureaucracies that you just would not know existed, but now we do know it exists. So there are some bureaucrats out there in the International Boundary and Water Commission. I applaud them for their endless work in maintaining America's borders. Hopefully that is not a bureaucracy that's chopped. But anyways, let's see. Authorized participation in the United States IBWC section. The project commenced in 1975. It completed in 1977. And that was the border. They had a chain link fence in 1950?
Oh, man. That was a very low fence.
Dude, you could literally get a ladder and hop over that thing, but it had barbed wire on top of it. You know, that's
They put a blanket over that and you can get right over it.
Yeah, but you know, that's a lot more than what I was thinking would be there for 1950, because generally, like, in the early 1900s, there was literally nothing on the border, like, you just walked across. And even by 1950, they had a chain link fence with razor wire. So that's new. I didn't know that. But that is very interesting. So apparently it was a small little area, tiny area actually, only about 481 acres. That was transferred to Mexico, and interesting. That's very interesting. I thank you for sharing this with me. I'm going to have to read a little bit more about this because I did not know about the small border dispute, and it looks as though it was cleared up with a treaty in 1970. But still, I thank you so much once again for your support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to NeatSock12, who puts in a 10 and says the person rapid transit in the United States was an invention before its time.
Let's see, the person rapid transit. Let me go look at that because I think I've heard of this before. Is it personal rapid transit?
Yes.
I hate the pods. I just hate these things. It seems visionary, but it doesn't make any economical sense because it practically at this point is a guided car. And that's what I find to be an issue about these things. Because if you're going to come up with something that generally travels along a frictionless rail, such as this one at West Virginia University, why in the world... Oh, this one actually doesn't travel on a frictionless rail. It's pretty much a guided car as well. Why in the world would they do that when you could create a railroad, a light railroad, that also would be able to carry a far larger number of people in multiple coaches that are connected together with a single moving unit? I don't know what it is with this, like, obsession in America with creating the pod things, because the pod things don't make economic sense. The whole thing about mass transportation is that we're not supposed to be moving small amounts of people in small little containers because that actually costs more money. We're trying to do it in a very nice way that is cheap, generally on the actual movement side of things. And these things generally go against the grain with that. Really cool, I will admit. I like the pod things do look cool, but from like an actual transportation perspective, they really don't make a lot of sense. At this point, you may as well just be getting like a taxi, or maybe riding on a minibus, because that's pretty much what these things are, just guided on a track. So that would be my kind of a take. Like, they just don't carry enough people, in my opinion, to make them worthwhile, really. And also, London Heathrow has these things. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, I think we rode on one of those in Dallas at some point.
I think we did. Let's see. Is there one in America? There's the Morgantown PRT, but there isn't another one that they claim is in America. So I guess the one. Wait, I think the one we were on was actually like a little train thing. I believe. Let me go see. Dallas, Fort Worth. Here we are. And then that little thing rode around on these tracks, and then it would end up stopping here. And it does not show what this thing is. Where the world will we find this? Can we find it? Can we fix it? Yes, we can. Maybe. Well, dang, man. Wait, here it is. Skylink. I think that's the system. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that is the...
So this thing ran on some kind of a rail, it seems. Let's see if we can take a look at one of the vehicles. So this was the vehicle we were in.
Yeah, I think it might have been a monorail.
Yeah, but it's not really a pod, though. It's more like, it's almost like a bus, honestly, that moves around up there. This thing would fling you around the corners, though. It would go like 30 miles an hour around like a 90-degree turn, and you just get your ass flung across the thing and like slam into a wall or something. Like, you had to hang on. Like, in that thing, it was a ride. Like, here, let's see. That might... Yeah, this will show you all a bit of the speed. It doesn't look that fast in this video, but I promise you when you're standing up in this thing and it's taking this corner, this thing is flinging you. Like, it actually is. Like, everyone in there is like trying to hang on to stuff when it does this, but this thing more so falls under like a more decent form of public transport because it is carrying a larger bulk of people per transit. So, you know, this one is neat. I feel like the PRT kind of a concept, it didn't really catch on because it doesn't really make a lot of economical sense with these things. But still, I hope that does address that well. I don't mean to be like violently against it because it is neat. It's just I don't know. I don't really think it qualifies as public transport. I think it qualifies as like a cool kind of like it qualifies as cool transportation, but not really like a public transport kind of a thing. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Philip Fixes LSA, who puts in that 5. And thank you very much, Philip Fixes, for the support. He said, look up LT Hodgate of Video, Florida, and read about his and his air crew's sacrifice to save an elementary school. LLT LSA, and take one from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support. Matthew, what's that called again?
It's called the LT Hodgate of Video, Florida.
And let's see if I can find it right there. Unfortunately, I cannot find it at the moment. And I thank you so much for the support and wanting us to find that. But also, I was just told by Matthew we are starting to run out of time, and there appears to be a good amount of super chats left, and we want to make sure to get to everyone. So I will try and look at that off stream. But I do thank you so much once again for support, and I'll try looking that up again. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Paramecium13, who puts in a 5 and says, Erdogan blames the interest rate lobby to defend his economic policies, and I'm surprised that Russia hasn't pulled out that classic trick yet.
I know, right? Like, they're getting there almost, but Erdogan's making no sense these days, in my opinion. I don't know if he even knows what his actual general plan is anymore because it's kind of fallen apart enough that it doesn't exist. But, you know, he's just out there trying to cope at this point. He'll probably get elected again because that's how it's going these days in Turkey, honestly. But with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here goes to Boy, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Boy, for that $5 support. He said, BlackRock works for Beijing. That is in Boy's words, by the way. He said, salute, LSA.
And I thank you for the support, and I will have to leave that without a comment. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on. Also, I do have to ask this, though. Why would a investment firm that is a for-profit company work for a communist government where profit is abolished for private enterprises and it only exists for the enrichment of the state? Like, that's kind of like my thing there. It's like, maybe their like corporate model is kind of pink, if you want to call it that, because they think that'll appeal to people, but I don't think they're commie because it kind of just goes against the entire economic principle they exist in. It's kind of like with every company out there that's corporate and does virtue signaling. Like, they all make it sound like they're like, yes, we want the workers to make more money. It's like, well, why don't you just up their wage then? No one's stopping you. It's like, what's stopping you? Just do it. It's like, well, the reason why they're saying that is because they want it to look like they're actually for folks because they think it will help them sell products when they're really not. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's kind of something that happens every year now, in a certain month when the entire world is covered in this certain kind of a thing, at least here in the West, but it's generally what they believe is a good selling tactic. It has nothing to do with them actually supporting anything. It's just that they believe it'll help them to push products. That's it.
Really? Really, BlackRock is like a capitalist to a fault, really. Like everything BlackRock does is just like extreme capitalism, like almost to the point of being destructive, really. At least in my opinion, that's just me saying that. Feel how you want about BlackRock, but there's no evidence they're working for Beijing. I will say that. Like there is no evidence of that. There are some things that maybe some of the people that work at BlackRock think that could be along the lines like the enforcer's saying, but overall, though, I'll just say that they're extremely capitalist.
But the thing is that at the end of the day, because a lot of people always go, "Oh, this company is commie." Like if they were commie, they're literally begging for their own destruction. And the people at the top that actually work in these businesses, they are fairly clever people, and they're not going to sit there and let their entire empire that they built die. These people are very egotistical as well. So why in the world would they go, yes, let's bow down to commie leaders that will destroy us in the end? Like that wouldn't make a lot of sense in their mind. So what they're doing is that they generally sense a trend in the public and they go, oh, that's a good trend. So if they see that people are kind of going a little pink, you know, like maybe they'll be like, let's go a little pink too. And it's not at all that they care. At all. They just think it'll help them to sell more products. Everything you see is generally very constructed for a public image of promoting a company for some kind of a benefit. Like for example, let's pick someone. Well, not someone in particular. How about someone who actually was on Shark Tank at a point? Some of y'all may know who I'm talking about. They own, well, they're a billionaire, I believe, and they own a massive sports company. They always made this their sales pitch on Shark Tank that they were going to get you with the Mavs. Now, they say all kinds of very nice things, like they think that, you know, certain people should be taxed more and all that kind of stuff. But you know something that's really interesting about that is that they're never taxed more. And you know why? It's because this is a sales pitch by this guy that he's making. He knows that. People are going to go, wow, I think he's a cool guy and he really relates with me, his consumer. I'm going to consume more of his products. And he makes more money that way. Does he ever pay more taxes? Probably not. Does he make more money? Sure as hell he does. That's how it works. And that's why when people really get into that and they're like, oh, that damn commie. I'm like, no, he's not no commie. He's actually out there just making sure to appeal to the people he knows makes up his consumer base and making them buy more of his products because they relate with him. He'll never pay more taxes and he'll only make more money. And that's how it works in this country. People will say whatever they need to sell something. So if they look pink, they're probably about as damn capitalist as you can imagine. If they look capitalist, they are certainly capitalist. That's really how it works around here. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $5 support from Chef Pat. And Danny, look, there's another chef in here, by the way. It's going to be a competition. It's going to have to be a cook-off. But Chef Pat put in a 5 and said, going from no hazard to danger means you can't accidentally report the wrong thing. Danger in this case is always unsafe. No danger could be misheard.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a good point. Maybe that's why they do it. But it seems weird to me because in America it's always like danger, no danger, safety on, safety off. So I guess you can mishear that, but that's still a very good point that I never thought about. And I got to thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running as well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Plazoth, who puts in a 5 and says pretty much a daily coffee fund, I guess, LSA. And also, I asked this before, but let's see your take on it this time. If you did, let's see here. He said, Germany talked to the HTS, and any thoughts?
Germany talked to the HTS. Well, I mean, generally everyone's wanting to give the interim government a chance. That's kind of the running trend in the West right now, except for Israel, is that everyone wants to give the Syrian interim government a chance to get put into the Western fold. Yeah, they might not turn into a democracy. They might actually end up being an Islamic emirate. That's not a bad thing. Like, I feel sometimes I feel like people misunderstand. Just because something is an emirate does not mean that it is a terrible thing. Like, yeah, ideologically it's not entirely aligned with the West, but there's still like literally the entire Middle East is made up of emirates that are Western aligned. So it's not a terrible thing. There are many examples where it works. And while that may not be exactly what this federal republic or the great republic we will live in would be looking for in the successor to Syria, we have to take what we can get. And if that's what Syria largely is about to turn into, we've got to accept that and really try and bring them into the West, because the strategic implications of getting them into the West are massive, and the loss of not getting them into the West is also massive as well in the long term. So we want them in the West. And that's why the Germans are talking to the HTS. I mean, hell, even Zelenskyy likes them. Like, Zelenskyy is offering to give them food, like just free food on the Ukrainian dime to try and pull them more towards the Western sphere. Like, it's like the only people who are against this right now, it would seem, are maybe the Israelis, because they just bomb them every day of the week at this point. But beyond that, everyone else is actually giving it a good concerted effort to try and make them a Western-aligned country. The only thing that we could lose in the end is a possible ally, and if they end up moving towards the Iranian direction again, well, then we start bombing them just like the Israelis, and we kind of fix the situation then. But I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one here goes to Vic the Red, who puts in a 4. It says they'll blame the USA and Ukraine as usual. Peak performance right there.
Yeah, and I have to have a European passport. Come on, man. Like, there's not even such a thing. But still, I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we couldn't make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a 2 and says, LSA, hit the like button. That's an order.
And hit the like button, folks. That is in order. We've actually gotten up to about 3,100 likes. And also, crazily enough, we actually got up to about, I think it was like 10.2 thousand live viewers tonight, which was shocking because we actually had kind of like a slow roll tonight, like with people coming in, but still loads of people got here. And I got to thank you all for watching so far tonight. And so with that, thank you once again. And please do hit that like button. And also, a big shout out to everyone today because we did, and I completely forgot to mention this until now, we actually did hit 330,000 subscribers today at this point.
Whoa.
And also, Matthew, that video I made, you know, that video I made, you know, that cool video I made, you know, it's gotten 203,000 views now. It's number 3 out of 10.
Oh, wow. It overtook my video from yesterday. So it might be in the maybe the 230 range, actually.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a 230, 240 or something like that. Still very nice. And I thank everyone for watching that today as well. But still, thank you so much once again for your support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And welcome to the new 700 or so people who joined the LSA today. And with that, we are on to the next one.
In our last super chat goes to Vic the Red once again, who puts in a 2 and says Russia gave him a passport to the Gulag.
Oh, I guess so, bled. I guess he gave a passport to Gulag, bled. Very sad for him, but a very funny joke. Very nice. And with that, it is time for us to move on into our live chats. Due to time constraints, unfortunately, because we're about to run over time, we will be getting 1 live chat and then, well, actually 1 Morse code, which is the norm for the night, and then we'll be getting 3 live chats and rounding out the stream. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and with that, we're moving on to our live chat questions because we have to get around to these because if we don't, we might get the worms and the
worms.
Oh. I did that for Bobo Vasquez's benefit, by the way. There you go, Bobo. You got the RFK. But also, by the way, I saw some people mentioning something about the video views and stuff like that. You know what's fascinating, folks, is after doing this for a few years, we can actually predict the amount of views the video is probably going to get within the first 10 minutes. That's something interesting with being able to analyze the data coming out from the videos, is we can predict how popular that video is going to be within literally, like I said, just 10 minutes. It's kind of crazy how good we got in predicting that. And also that allows us to hone the videos next time to be even better, so that way more people like them and also find them to be enjoyable to watch. But with that, folks, we are now moving on to the live chat questions and the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Benu, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, and Arabelle Garbo. They said the Morse code says the Russians are seeing the shadow of the oil storms forming above them. And LLT, LSA.
And ding, ding, that's the sound of money, and y'all got that dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all, each and every one of y'all, for getting that Morse code message correct again. Y'all have gotten that right time and time again, all the way up until the 1,029th day of the war, which is today. And I got to congratulate y'all for that, because it's truly a miracle that y'all been able to do that over and over and over. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Mandy, I understand that we have another super chat.
All right, and also, Bobo, I did not, I was doing the RFK thing not for the super chat, by the way. I actually did not read your second one. I saw the first one, though, so thank you for the $20 support. He said, you got it, Matt. I'm a man of my word, LOL. And it turns out that after I did the RFK thing, Bobo actually said, I'll give you a $15 super chat for RFK. I did not do it for the money, by the way, Bobo. I did not do it for that reason. But, of course, thank you very much. That was a good RFK, good impression of somebody, that is. I was about to say the guy's name there, which I shouldn't have said, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I have to say his name. Maybe don't have to say it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But thank you very much, Bobo, for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
the BBC offered me $20,000 to do a nature documentary, and I refused because I'm a man of character. And then the BBC approached me again and offered me 50 grand to speak about animals. And now today we're going to be talking about the tiger.
But beyond that, I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I got to thank you so much, Bobo Vasquez, for supporting the channel, because I actually didn't know anything about that at all. But I suppose you are a man of your word, even in the future, because Matthew did it before you even saw that message, apparently. But still, I thank you so much once again for the support and the $5 tip on top. And I thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running as well. And so with that, it is time for us to move on into the last 3 live chats of the night. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this one goes to Chargy, who says, you guys should share what Sukhoi means and why it was the dry plane. Very interesting Cold War stuff.
So the Sukhoi is an aircraft company. I actually do not know what Sukhoi stands for, to be entirely honest with you. But here's the founder of Sukhoi right here, who looks very depressed, as many Soviets were. But still, beyond that, I do not know. Oh, hang on. Sukhoi. Okay, so it was founded by Pavel Sukhoi, so it's just his last name. That's what Sukhoi stands for. But Sukhoi didn't really develop a lot of, like, good aircraft until almost the end of the Cold War, honestly. Like, they were kind of just, like, back there. You know, like, that's the best way I could explain it. MiG was really the forefront aircraft designer for the Soviet Union, at least in the interceptor and fighter role, up until about the late 70s, and Sukhoi finally started to appear. They created such thing as the Su-6, which was terrible and ugly, and then the Su-9, which is also terrible and ugly, the Su-11, which was incredibly ugly and terrible. They also created the Su-15, which we don't even mention here. The Su-17, which we also do not mention. And then finally, they hit commercial success, which was, I believe, well, I be dipped. They're not going to tell me about it, huh? That's crazy. Anyways, I would go over the history, but we are like way behind on time. We're starting to run over time at this point. But I thank you so much for wanting to hear about Sukhoi, because they Sukhoi. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to John Bartley, who said, what happened to the F-16s that were sent to Ukraine? And do you think they've all been downed at this point?
No, they're still out there. None of them have been shot down yet. I think one of them crashed a while ago. Like, the Ukrainians crashed it on accident. But beyond that, the rest of them are still operational, from what we understand. None of them have been destroyed or shot down. And we also heard that they were involved in shooting down about 12 drones in the last air attack from the Russians. So we know that there's still a good amount operational inside of Ukraine. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was like a lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Activista, who said, my question is, the North Korean soldiers are clearly getting special medical treatment. Oh, preferential treatment. And do you think this is noticed by RF troops, and what are the effects?
I would assume it probably is, and if it is being noticed by them a lot, they're probably going to have a very warm reception when they get back on the front lines. Probably another friendly fire incident, because that's usually how the Russians roll these days out in Ukraine, so I'd assume they probably just get lit up. Like, to be entirely honest, they're not going to the hospital next time, they're going to the morgue. That's probably what the Russians will do. I laugh about that, but that's kind of an unfortunate reality for those North Korean soldiers. But with that, I hope that does answer that fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank you all so much once again for watching. There's still 4,500 of y'all here, and there was 10.2 thousand people here at the peak. 74,000 people have watched the stream before it even ended. We are entirely honored and appreciative to have each and every single one of y'all here, and I hope that you all have enjoyed this stream greatly. We will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and thank you all so much once again for subscribing and getting us to 330,000 subscribers. With that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, huge thanks once again for another great stream tonight, and a whopping 73, almost 74,000 people have joined us by the end of the stream, and that is crazy viewership. And once again, we appreciate having every single one of you here tonight, and also be sure to join us again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern as well for the next stream, and also midday tomorrow for a video if there is enough news to cover. And I'll have to figure out who's doing the video tomorrow, so I'm not really sure. We'll have to sort that out. But anyways, Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava, get some rest, and good night.
The leaf spring army sent